Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson, live from the Antonio Cromartie studio in part with Huggies. And it's time. It's all presented by FanDuel. And it's time for our Week 14 NFL review, Sam. A lot to get through here today.
Hell of a week.
Monster show here. The last one with buys, full slate next week. We'll be here for 4 or 5 hours. You know how it goes toward the end of the season. Week 14. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's go.
It all started Thursday night. Remember that game?
Vaguely.
Full watch along, you and I, with all of our members. We had a lot of fun. Be sure to sign up for our membership tier. You can hang out with us during Lions-Cowboys Thursday night football games. Maybe not in the future, but, you know.
Well, I'm sure you can. They'll come up again.
They'll come up again. 44-30, the Lions get the win to move to 8-5 over the Cowboys, who fall to 6-1. Big game for both teams when it came to playoff implications. The Cowboys were in the middle of this 2-game win streak against the Eagles and the Chiefs. The Lions, their season on the line as well. You know, every other team in the wild card hunt right now has 9 wins.
Yeah. And
they needed just to get to 8-5. They're still the 8th seed, but it was a season-saving type of win for the Lions in that offense.
Yeah, it was like the Stay Alive Bowl. Whichever team won was going to get to like a coin flip to make the playoffs or not. If you lost, you're basically toast. If you won, you're still not in great shape, but you've at least got a coin flip's chance of staying alive, and that was what the Lions did. Their offense looked great. I mean, offense, both sides had a ton of success. Over 800 yards worth of total offense. It felt like the Lions were the better of the two offenses, and ultimately the big difference was turnovers.
Yeah, beginning of the second. So the Lions got up 20-9 in the first half. Interception to start the second half. They go up 27-9. Cowboys were sneaking back into it, though.
Yeah.
By the way, Brandon Aubrey just casually kicking 63-yarders, 55-yarders. What do you have, 3 above?
He had like 3 straight kicks, and they were all, I think, 55-plus.
Yeah.
And the 63-yard – I mean, he has this style where apparently it's deliberate. Like he doesn't he only ever practices with the sort of, you know, the easy 80% swing, like a golf swing, right?
Yeah.
Smooth as powerful. So that even when he's kicking from 63, it just looks like he's running up to hit like a 30-yard chip shot. And somehow it's still got plenty of leg to sail clean over from 63 at that.
I love that 63 was like with the NFL record for decades or whatever it was. And
Tom Dempsey,
his
club foot.
And he just casually kicks it at 63. So the Lions did a good job, you know, forcing field goals, getting up early. There was the big question coming in was Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had his ankle injury.
Wasn't expected to play and did.
Yeah. Most injury insiders were saying this is a 1 to 2 week injury.
Yeah.
It happened the previous Thursday. So both of these teams, it happened on Thanksgiving. They're coming back on a week's rest. So it wasn't a short week, but it was still, you know, you didn't really have the mini bye coming off the Thursday Thanksgiving game. They put him right back out there 7 days later, and St. Brown goes. And, you know, fantasy people trying to figure out, you know, what's going to happen here. When you have an ankle injury like this, are you just a decoy? Are you there? And he catches 6 for 92, including a big 37-yarder when they were running out the clock toward the end of the game, which running out the clock turned into putting up another touchdown to get to 44.
I mean, that group that the Lions have is just so explosive and devastating. I mean, Jameson Williams was, again, pretty uncoverable. Jahmyr Gibbs has now become this insane receiving weapon in addition to what he does on the ground. And actually on the ground, I know he had 3 touchdowns, so it's not like he went nowhere, but the yardage wasn't there on the ground. The yardage came through the air, where he's just become this coverage problem for opposing defenses. You know, this improved Dallas defense, it actually started the game pretty well. Like, it was getting to Jared Goff, causing him all kinds of problems. And then as the game wore on, the Lions just like found the answers. And from a certain point on, the Cowboys defense had basically nothing to offer in return.
So Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 rushing touchdowns. And as you mentioned, they've been feeding him a lot more in the pass game. I mean,
did that tie him with Barry Sanders for the most under the age of 24?
I think it did. He was down 1 until he had that final touchdown. Only 43 yards on 12 carries, but, you know, a bunch of those can't pick up any more yards when the
you can't once you hit the end zone.
The turf is colored. You can't pick up any more yards. David Montgomery ran the ball hard too, 35-yarder and a touchdown for him as well. But to me, it's just the Lions have these games, man. Like Jameson Williams, 7 for 96. He looked really good using his speed. St. Brown, the big plays there, and then Gibbs with 77 through the air. They're missing Sam Laporta for the end of the season. That's part of what makes them special, is having those 4 difficult to cover pass catchers, but they still have 3, including Isaac Tesla, too, who had another touchdown with just 2 catches.
All he does.
That's all he does.
Unfortunately, they lost Brian Branch in the game. He was already injured, dealing with various things throughout the course of the year. Went down in the end zone. It looked not ideal, and then I think it was confirmed reasonably quickly afterwards that that's done for the year.
So a couple things happened on that play. That was the 3rd and 3 play where Jake Ferguson goes up the seam. They called offensive pass interference on Ferguson against Alex Anzalone. I know that a lot of fans were upset by that call. It didn't really affect the game. It got declined, unless you wanted.
It was a terrible call, but actually when you work it out over the course, it didn't actually change things because of the fact that they declined it.
Yeah, unless you wanted Anzalone on a hook or something like that, which I think in real time It might have looked like. It ended up getting declined, but this week, in the last couple of weeks, a lot of these late field goal decisions, and we'll discuss one with the Bills.
This was a badly officiated game.
Yeah, there were a few.
Yes, there were at least 3 this
every
week
weekend
that were pretty terrible. This was bad.
But that was so the Cowboys were down 10, and they had 4th and 3 from the 11, and they kicked the field goal, and we were discussing it in real time. It's harder in real time, by the way, Sam. Right? That's why the game's moving fast when you're on the sideline or when you're in watch-along land, rather than being able to recap it days later. I did ask at the time, though, should you go for it? 4th and 3 on the 11 when you're down 10. The risk here is, you get it to 1 score, but if the Lions just go down and kick a field goal, then it's 2 scores again pretty quickly. If you at least get the touchdown, then you put the onus on the defense. Okay, we can at least give up a field goal here and get the ball back if you're Dallas. Instead, Detroit drives right down, and it wasn't just a field goal. They score a touchdown, and the rest is history there. So they kick the field goal to make it 37-30. Lions go down. St. Brown with a 37-yarder, and then Gibbs with his 3rd touchdown of the day. So Lions offense looking good again, and Cowboys defense, they were unable to build upon some of the momentum that they'd had in recent weeks.
Yeah, they were, and that was the reason ultimately. That and the turnovers. Like, it was a shootout that the Lions won because the Cowboys turned the ball over a few times. But ultimately, Detroit's defense is really banged up now with the injuries. DJ Reed was having a brutal game. Even though he's back in the lineup, he was getting picked on quite a bit. I think the game changed a bit when CeeDee Lamb went down. I mean, he had 6 catches for 121 yards on 8 targets, and then his head bounces off the turf, and he's out of the game for a while. Ryan Flanoy had a breakout game for him, led the team in targets, catches, had 115 yards and a score. George Pickens was kept relatively quiet, but those guys were causing all kinds of problems. I think CeeDee Lamb going down changed the game, but the Dallas defense just had no answers after like a few minutes into the first quarter.
George Pickens was taking some heat the next day. There was that one deep ball that we watched in real time that was left way inside that maybe he didn't go all out for. But at the time, I was like, this ball's inside, and it's inside with a safety.
That's not a good example, I think. There were some. I saw someone had like a montage of like, here's George Pickens loafing clips. That shouldn't be one of them. Like that, when you're running vertically deep down the field and the ball is way inside to the point where you have to go through a body to get to it, like you can't just slam on the anchors and go hard right. You know what I mean? You can't just. It's not a video game where you can just immediately turn to the right mid-sprint down the field. So, like, he knew from the trajectory that ball was not catchable, and so therefore didn't go all out to try and catch it, which is, I mean, okay. It doesn't look great, but it's fine.
With a safety right there, too.
Yeah.
On a bad throw. Were the other ones legit? Because I didn't catch anything.
Yeah, I mean, there was some lack of effort in some other plays. But it's the kind of – they're plays where a lot of players give a lack of effort. It's like, you know, are you actually going to go all out to dig out the free safety on this run play that you're not really involved in? You know, a lot of guys don't. And it's like, yeah, it is a lack of effort. And if you want to pull that up in a meeting room, be like, hey, George, I need you to go get this free safety. You're like, all right, fine. Yeah, it's legit. But you can go throughout the NFL and find, you know, 24 players doing that right now in any game.
That's my question on that, because we're going to get to the offseason here, and Pickens is having a monster season, and the number of games that he's helped Dallas win, including on Thanksgiving against Kansas City, you know, they have a decision to make, just like Pittsburgh had a decision to make. Do we want him in the last year of his contract? He could command a lot of money. And
the
question's going to be, which George Pickens are you getting? That's why people are looking for this type of stuff, because that's part of why he's not in Pittsburgh anymore.
And I suspect for him, it's something you do need to keep on top of. Like maybe it's something that you're going to let go with another wide receiver because, as I said, it's not uncommon. It's something that a lot of receivers do. But with Pickens specifically, maybe it's something that you want to be trying to keep on point with him because it is part of his potential, the downside to him. Like if you let that slide, suddenly you get the George Pickens where 50% of his plays he's, mailing in or whatever. I don't know. But it's hard when you just pull out, like here's a montage of all these clips where Pickens is not going 100%. It's like, all right, now go do that for another receiver.
Yeah, you got to know what the baseline is. Like anything that you call out, you got to understand what the baseline is. Is this the standard for everyone else? Anyway, so playoff implications here. As I mentioned earlier, Lions are right now the number 8 seed in the NFC at 8-5. The Bears are now the 7 seed, by the way.
Yeah.
Started the day at 1.
Yeah.
And they're 9-4, and they have the 7 seed. So the Lions are a game behind the Niners and Bears, both 9-4 for that final wild card spot. Behind them is the Panthers at 7-6. Panthers are probably going to be all or nothing, them or the Bucks for that for the South Division. So they're still. Not necessarily, but the Lions are a game up on the Panthers, and then the Cowboys move to the 10 seed here at 6-1. So the Lions still have playoff hopes and aspirations in front of them. They've got one more game with Chicago again, but again, we mentioned at the top, they needed this one, and then Dallas fall into the 10 seed, and it's going to be tough to, they have an easier schedule here. They're not completely done here.
They're all but done.
But it's pretty close.
NFL.com has them with a 6% chance of making the playoffs right now. This was basically, if you don't win this game, you're toast.
Okay, so we need to – I was trying to give them a little bit. I'm trying to give everybody a little bit.
No, they're done. This is why, this whole thing – remember, going into last week, all the shows were like, you don't want to face Dallas. Dallas is dangerous. They're the best team in the NFL right now. And you're like, yeah, but they might not even make the playoffs. Let's maybe tap the brakes on talking about what a devastating playoff team they could be. Because if they don't win on Thursday, they're effectively done. I mean, this is there was a degree of validity to it. Their offense is really, really dangerous. Were Dallas a playoff team?
Who's the team this week? Texans, definitely.
Yeah,
Texans are they're the 7 seed, but they're the team you don't want to play.
Yeah, they're actually in the playoff.
But they actually
now. But this was the thing. I mean, Dallas, Kansas City, Cincinnati, there is truth to the idea that any of those 3 teams would actually be a pretty scary, opponent for a playoff team despite their records. But none of them might make the playoffs now. So, maybe don't focus on that.
All right, man, you ready to go to the next one? Going to Sunday?
Yeah.
I don't make the rundown here, but we're starting. We're starting with the Tennessee Titans getting their second win. Yesterday, 1:00. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, one of the most exciting games, actually, of the day.
It's a good game.
31-29. Titans get the win to move to 2-11. Browns fall to 3-10. Titans were up 2 scores late. Shedeur leads 2 touchdown drives to get back, into this game here. And then they did the analytical play, go for 2. You won't find 2 worse 2-point conversion attempts than what the Browns pulled out here. But they on paper, it was the right move. You're down 14. They go for 2 the first time. Shedeur drops the snap. And then the second one, they go for 2 the second one to tie the game, 31-29. And Quinshon Judkins on the direct snap. I don't know what happened.
I honestly think he just forgot he had to pitch the ball. I think...
Well, at first it looked like he was fake, but, it could have been a fake. But the way he did it was like, oh, no. He's past me.
I think he just took the ball, started running to his right as,
thought he had it?
Well, as often happens when he's in there with a play, and then realized too late, oh, no, wait, this is a play where I've got to pitch it to the guy going back in reverse. And by the time he realized that, it was too late to actually fix it. And then he's desperately trying to create some sort of magic, cutback lane by himself and just gets buried. If I was guessing, that's what I would say happened. He just forgot that this play involved a pitch back to the reverse man, and by the time he realized that, it was already too late and the play was done. Sometimes I think that coaches. So I watched the clips of people asking Stefanski about this afterwards, and it's I mean, what do you say? Like, there's no good answer to that. It's like, yeah, that we called a play we thought would work. It didn't.
That's a good answer.
I do sometimes think that coaches, though, just don't do themselves any favors with this type of thing, where it's like, going for 2 is fine. Why would you call a play that involved taking the quarterback that just executed this large comeback, who is like this lightning rod of media attention? Like, why would you call a play that involved taking him off the field? Like, you have to have another play that involves Shedeur being there.
I don't think that matters. I mean,
100% matters.
They run
because it fails, and every single Browns reporter is going, why wasn't Shedeur on the field?
They run an entire Wildcat package with Judkins taking direct snaps.
Okay.
They've been doing it for weeks.
Right. But
if
it doesn't work,
and so you have the entire package. You've got, he's going to run power, he's going to run counter the other way. We're going to fake the reverse. We're going to toss the reverse and have a pass, Philly special style. I mean, they have the whole package with Judkins. They do this every single week. It's not this unique situation like, hey guys, when it's 31-31, we're taking Shedeur off the field and
it doesn't
just
matter, because all anyone's going to ask, which happened, is why wasn't Shedeur on the field for this 2-point play?
You don't call plays so that whoever shows up the Cleveland radio host who's going to be on our shouty shows on Wednesday is not upset. That's not why you call plays. You're not making play calls just to make sure that you don't end up on Cleveland radio the next day.
There's no reason to add that to the list of things for people to beat you with. Like, you're already having your job called for on a weekly basis. You're already losing games to bad teams.
And the reason you take the quarterback off the field there is because it helps the numbers game. When you run Wildcat, when you take the quarterback who's usually not a threat in those situations, then the defense has to account 11 on 11. You don't just say, oh, there's Shedeur's, he's out wide on this Wildcat play. Just ignore him. They're probably not going to throw it to him.
Yeah, so alternatively, you can leave him on the field, call a play that involves passing, and let him do what he'd done to drag you back to the win in the first place.
He made some really impressive throws in this game.
Yeah.
Including, I thought his first touchdown goes for 1 yard in the box score. And some people look at the 1 yard touchdown like, oh, those are easy, until you see the throw that he makes to Harold Fannin.
Beautiful throw.
It is
Harold Fannin was amazing in this game. Harold Fannin and David Njoku made some spectacular catches.
I couldn't help, when I've been watching Harold Fannin these last couple weeks, I couldn't help but think, like, the Browns still have it, they're building this team back up. And there's other Browns news, actually, that we have to reference and get to when it comes to their quarterback situation in the future. But I couldn't help but think, as the Chiefs are trying to, get through this, Travis Kelce drop and the end of the Travis Kelce era and everything, if Harold Fannin was drafted to a team that was competing right now, I mean, we're talking about him as a potential Rookie of the Year candidate. And like, if he had gone, remember Denver was going to draft a tight end for a while, and they don't necessarily need him. But imagine if he went to Denver, if he went to Kansas City or some of these top teams, people would be talking about Harold Fannin quite a bit.
Yeah.
He was awesome in this game. And Shedeur put some really good throws right on him as well. Anyway, the 1 yard touchdown was outstanding. 7 yard touchdown. Fannin had to go up and get it. He was so good, man. He was very, very good. And so what you're saying, though, is the way Shedeur, I thought, threw accurately in the tight red zone would be a reason to maybe lean into that at that point in the game.
Yeah.
But overall, the idea of taking him off the field to run a Wildcat play, like, that happens. I get it.
Of course it happens, but there's no if you're Kevin Stefanski in the situation he's in right now, which is your team is a joke, everybody's calling for your job, you're losing to the Tennessee Titans, who were 1 win on the season and look like the worst team in the NFL, and you are now 1 play away from tying this up, there's just no reason to add to that. Like, you hear all the time, well, we don't think about the downside. Well, think about the downside, because if you don't think about the downside and the downside happens, then you just got blindsided by something that you didn't need to have as a factor. You've got a list of plays for your 2-point conversions. Just call one that involves him on the field. There's no reason to shoot yourself in the foot if it doesn't work.
Just because the media makes a big deal out of stupidity.
The media matters. You don't want it to, but it does. Head coaches have to deal with that on a weekly. If the media didn't exist, Mike Tomlin would have no problem whatsoever. This is a media thing where all of Pittsburgh is finally getting sick of Mike Tomlin, pending this week. media matters. You don't want it to, but media drives owners to make changes.
That might be the if you want to add layers to it, the fact that the billionaires are sometimes weak-minded and influenced by the masses.
Yeah.
That's the one reason maybe that you don't want to deal with that. Anyway, I thought Shedeur played great in this game.
So his PFF grade will not end up amazing because, in particular, his interception was pretty awful. But I think overall he played really well in this game, particularly when you consider, Tennessee's 14-3 up later in the game. They're 2 scores up. Like, he brought them back repeatedly over and over again in conditions that weren't amazing. It was cold, it was ugly weather, and he was in a must-pass situation for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
And unlike, the last time where he made some positive plays and everyone was like, yeah, but look, it was a screen and Dylan Sampson went to this time he dumps the ball off to Sampson and Sampson fumbles the ball. His supporting cast was actually letting him down in this game in some instances. Also David Njoku and Harold Fano were making spectacular contested catches, so it was a mixed bag. But dude, he looked really good in this game. He made the big plays we've talked about. I think some of the most impressive stuff was actually, though, the stuff that doesn't, it's like a baseline for being a good quarterback in the NFL, but is his weakness. Like, how do you handle pressure? How do you move in the pocket? How do you, once you're moving in the pocket, what are you going to do at the end of that? Are you going to keep making it worse and take a terrible sack, or are you actually going to wait until you understand now is when I got to get rid of the ball? Now is when I've got to do something with this play. The overall level of him in this game, I thought, was really good, with obviously the caveat that it's the Tennessee Titans.
A couple things to back that up besides the Titans point. But Shedeur was the leading rusher on the team for the Browns with 29 yards on 3 carries, includes a 7-yard touchdown scramble, which was outstanding. Yep. Only sacked twice in a game where he dropped back. He had 42 pass attempts.
Yes. That's,
again, outstanding, right, given what we saw from him coming out of college. You mentioned, the game script and everything getting out of control.
Blocked punt was the other thing.
There was a block punt, yeah. And I want to give the Titans proper credit for all those plays in a second here. But Shedeur goes 23 of 42 for 364 in those 3 touchdowns. Yeah, the interception wasn't a great, kind of a panic heave into double coverage. But the 3 touchdowns plus a 35-yarder to Harold Fannin on a go ball, which was outstanding, 60-yarder to Jerry Jeudy, right on him on a post. And immediately we said to Shedeur a couple of weeks ago, he had a couple big plays in there, but you saw more big play potential from this Browns offense that didn't exist with Dylan Gabriel or even with Joe Flacco earlier in the year. All of that has changed. It's a little bit like when Jameis took over last year. Not the same wild stat lines like 450 yards and 4 touchdowns and 4 picks, but similar idea where all of a sudden this offense is elevated and you see some big play potential. But I think the fact that Shedeur even got this close or helped the Browns get this close to the end, it reminds me a little bit of if you characterize his Colorado career. Terrible offensive line, had his buddy Travis Hunter, who of course is outstanding. They had some pretty good pass catchers, but wasn't a great team overall in Colorado that Shedeur helped make competitive every single week. And I think you saw elements of that in this Browns game, even though they fell short.
Yeah. Overall, I think he was very impressive in this game. The other thing, Devin Bush had an interception in this game, and it's probably overdue talking about the bizarre and yet impressive rejuvenation / breakout to his career that it's been. Devin Bush, former first-round pick as a linebacker who's been almost universally terrible in the NFL. Devin White has been the better of the 2 linebackers when they were sort of draft either or at that time, and Devin White has been pretty terrible. And yet that's how bad that most of Devin Bush's career has been. And this season he's been amazing in this Browns defense. Picks the ball off, almost houses it. Just a phenomenal performance this year for him. I want to call it a career rejuvenation, except I don't know that his career's ever been alive to the point in the first. It's just a breakout from nowhere.
I feel like we've had who was the guy for the Packers a couple years ago that just ran himself out of the league when he was with the Niners? Devondre Campbell.
Yeah.
You always have the random
All-Pro Devondre Campbell.
Year 5, year 6 linebacker breakout. Now Devin Bush has been great. Carson Schwarzenegger's been great. There's so much to like about this Browns defense this year. Titans, though.
Myles Garrett sack watch, we're up to 20.
He's up to 20. That was another great play. There was some misinformation going around about his pass rush win rate yesterday that went viral that has since changed. So be sure to get the updated numbers on there. He did have some wins against Dan Moore. It wasn't the same Dan Moore season-crushing game against Myles Garrett as we've seen in the past against the Steelers. But Garrett was fine.
So he's now 3 sacks away from the record, 22 and a half.
Got to do it in 16 games. So, yeah. You got 3 more games. We need 1 per game here.
I mean, this was...
You can't do this 17-game schedule thing.
From a keeping him from the record point of view, this was he would have wanted multiple in this game.
With Cam.
Yeah.
Cam Ward. I mean, they were getting rid of the ball pretty quickly. Ward had that interception. A couple other nice throws in there. Nice touchdown early to
that crazy play where he fended Delpit off for like 3 seconds, tossed him to the ground, got out of it. It was amazing.
And again, all those, that was a really nice play. All those plays, Mahomes had one last night too, where it's like, I don't know when they're going to call the play dead versus letting them play through it, but Cam got through it.
That's the true catch-22 thing for defenders now, is that we've seen players, there is a point where if you keep going, it's almost certainly going to result in a penalty, and yet if you don't keep going, they can do that.
Right. How do you handle those situations? From Tennessee's perspective, a couple shout-outs here. Tony Pollard, 65-yard touchdown run, another long run in there, so 25 carries for 161. Also, subtle thing, but at the very end, they needed to run just a little bit more clock to get the final knee, and Pollard had a nice little, run back across the grain to seal the deal for Tennessee. I thought he did a really nice job.
They made some nice plays. I mean, this was an offense that's gotten nothing for a significant period of the season, and they put up, almost 300 yards. They made some nice plays against this really dangerous Browns defense. Tony Pollard, as you mentioned, DK made a couple of nice catches, including his touchdown. There was some signs of life again, which is really all we're looking for.
And then the 2 rookies I wanted to shout out, Tennessee's defense. Marcus Harris, late-round pick out of Cal. He's the one who forced the fumble on Dylan Sampson. He's done a really nice job. And I think if you're a Titans fan looking at, they're 2-11 still scheduled with the number 1 pick right now, which we'll talk about in a sec. Harris is a guy that could be a part of this rebuild. He's done a nice job. And then Kevin Winston, the safety, who was injured for most of last year for Penn State. He's played these last few weeks. I think he's added a little spark to this defense. A couple tackles for loss, making some plays in the run game. And as a pass rusher, had a sack last week, a couple impact plays as a pass rusher as well. So I like Winston, a guy, they traded down with their second-round pick, got Winston, I think, top of the 3rd, coming off of his injury. But he's a second-round caliber player. I think he's added a little spark to this Titans defense.
There were a few plays yesterday throughout the NFL that reminded people that you can still play defense and you can still hit really hard and not be a penalty. And Amani Hooker had one where the Browns ran like a jet sweep or something to Malachi Corley down in the tight red zone, and Hooker just buried him, absolutely stoned him with a hit in the hole at the line of scrimmage. So that was a really nice play. There's more that we'll get to later in the many hours of show.
All right. Anything else on the game? Because we have to at least touch on the Deshaun Watson news.
No.
So he had his practice window opened up. I don't think we talked about that on the show the other day, right?
Maybe it happened while the show was going on. Anyway, whatever.
But the news on top of that was the reports that he's in the mix for next year.
Yeah. So
that he's got to be on the roster.
This is
for next year.
We're back to these are 2 different things, and yet because insiders produce the news and insiders copy and paste agent texts, you get a certain wording. One of the slant being thrown out there from the various insiders is not only will he be on the roster next year, but he could be in the mix to start games again, right?
Nobody wants this. Nobody wants
that
this.
Second part that's coming from the desk of David, whatever his name is. What's his name?
Muguleta?
Yeah, there you go.
How do you pronounce that?
I don't know. That's why I asked you to do it, because you're known for pronunciation.
But
that's coming from the desk of Deshaun Watson's agent, that second part. The fact that he will be on the roster next year is basically like a mathematical likelihood based off the fact that when they reworked his contract, they now gave him an $80 million dead cap hit this year if they cut him. It's $130 million overall if they cut him this year without a June 1st designation. So if they just cut him tomorrow, they are on the hook for $130 million of dead cap hit next year. That's so much, it's like, I don't know if you can field a roster with that kind of dead cap hit. If they did what the Broncos did, remember when they cut Russell Wilson to rip the Band-Aid off?
Yeah.
They designated him with a post-June 1st designation. If they do that to Watson,
It spreads
it's
it.
$80 million this year and $50 million next year, right? Which is, I mean, that's doable. It would be by far the biggest dead cap hit in the history of the league, but the cap has gone up since. Like Russell Wilson's was $80 million total across 2 years.
Yeah.
This would be $130 million and $80 million in the first year. What this is to say is that because the Browns are the Browns and they keep kicking the can down the road to try and get out of this deal, they put themselves in a situation where they probably need to keep him on the roster and just eat it, right? So that's the sort of first part of this is, oh, by the way, because of Watson's contract, he's probably going to be on the roster next year. They can't really get rid of him. They can't trade him for exactly the same reason. No one's going to take on that contract. It's the worst contract in football.
Well, when you trade a player, it has the same effect with the cap, just to be clear. Essentially the
Plus,
same.
it's a fully guaranteed contract, so you don't get the same benefits that you do for other deals where, like, you've paid the guaranteed money up front and all that's left is the fake money at the end, and so it's actually a cheap deal for the team taking it on. This is a fully guaranteed contract. It is literally the worst contract in football that the rest of the league still treats as an anomaly, right?
It keeps getting worse.
Correct. So he has zero trade value. Like, you can't get rid of him by a trade. It's even less likely to trade him than to cut him. So he will be on the roster next year. The second part is there any realistic chance that he starts football games for this team? That, I feel, has been put in there by the agent, and the insiders are just, let's put that out there. We'll do him a solid. I think it's extremely unlikely he ever starts a game for them again.
Just had to touch on it because I think we've all just assumed it's an afterthought, but I think we are potentially looking at a Kirk Cousins-like backup situation.
Right.
And when you at least have a rookie contract quarterback, it's either going to be, let's be serious, Shedeur Sanders starting next year or whoever they draft.
Yes.
And so when you have not a lot of money invested, you could suck it up for a year and have, hold the awful contract for one more year if needed. Anyway, Titans 2-11.
It is interesting, though,
Browns 3-10.
comparing it to that Russell Wilson thing, right, where I think people assumed that was going to go the other way. People assumed that Denver would keep Russell Wilson on the roster just because it was so expensive and prohibitive to cut him. And yet they went, no, this guy, and Russell Wilson theoretically is like a good guy, right? Maybe a little corny but like theoretically you wouldn't think Russell Wilson is cancer to have around the locker room or whatever, right? They were like, no, we got to rip the Band-Aid off, get this guy the hell out of the organization immediately.
It's because he had his own office.
Right.
You can't have the backup with his own office. In
$80
Denver.
million dead cap hit over 2 years. Instead, the Browns are like, no, Deshaun Watson, despite his, let's call them character concerns, they're like, he'll be a good guy to have on as a mentor. We'll keep him around. He'll show the young guys how to do things, how to be a professional. Even though it's an awful contract, we'll keep him around. It's a fascinating way of doing business.
Something to keep an eye on this offseason. Tankathon.com/NFL. Highly recommend if you want to stare at future draft order. Helpful. With the loss, Titans, as of right now, would have the number 3 pick. They dropped from 1 to 3. So there's 3 teams at 2-11. The Giants would be on the clock had the draft started today. Giants, Raiders, and Titans all tied at 2-11. That would be your 1, 2, 3 right now. Giants, Raiders, Titans. The Browns are now tied with 4 other teams at 3-10, but the Browns would have the number 4 pick right now at 3-10.
I don't remember where I saw this or what data it's pulling from, but I think I saw that the Titans still had the best chance at the number 1 overall pick based off remaining schedules, 28% or something like that.
And then, it's significant. You had Fernando Mendoza with a couple big throws the other day. If he's going to be the guy, the Giants don't need a quarterback. The Titans don't need a quarterback. The Raiders do. The Browns might. Talk about the Saints in a little bit. A couple QB-needy teams, if there's trade possibilities at the top to just keep an eye on there. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go Jacksonville Jaguars. First place in the AFC South by themselves, 36-19 over the Indianapolis Colts. Jags move to 9-4. Colts fall to 8-5. Jags got up early, and look, I think they had this game in hand. It was 21-7 pretty quickly. But big story. Let's start with the Daniel Jones news.
Yeah,
Daniel Jones gets hurt. He goes 5 of 7 for 60 yards, throws an interception almost immediately.
Really bad interception.
Really bad interception.
Hard play action right to Devin Lloyd.
So Devin Lloyd interception, that set up the Jags' first score to go up 7-0. And so Jacksonville is looking good early on, but then Daniel Jones blows out his Achilles.
Yeah.
And so he
on the other leg, right?
On the other leg.
Yeah.
Yes. Away from now he
goes down, just buckles without contact, immediate it already looks bad at that point, and then very quickly they're like, nah, he's out, Achilles.
So he only throws 7 passes before the injury. Riley Leonard, late round pick out of Notre Dame, comes in.
Because Anthony Richardson is still on IR with the eye injury from the elastic band. Total farce of a situation for the Colts now.
Yeah, it is a disastrous situation for the Colts right now.
Who have gone from the number 1 seed in the AFC to are they even in the playoffs at the moment? If they started, no, the 8th seed now. They're out of the playoff picture entirely in a month. They went from juggernaut AFC number 1 seed contender to you're not going to make the postseason now because you're in the 8th seed and you don't have a quarterback anymore.
And look, it's tough to perfectly unpack exactly where it's gone south, but they've lost 3 straight: Kansas City, Houston, and now Jacksonville.
By the way, within that month, you traded away your next 2 first-round draft picks.
That's the whole thing, right? So before, I forget the exact timing of that, but I think it was when they only had 2 losses. So in their last 5 games, they lost to Pittsburgh. So remember, that was the first game where it was like, hey, this team's been dominating for a while. They go into Pittsburgh, turn it over 5 or 6 times. They beat Atlanta. Their only win.
It's the weird overtime game in Germany.
It was the overtime game. That's right. They haven't won in the States for over a month and a half. But they went a lot of eggs in the Daniel Jones basket. They haven't re-signed him beyond his 1-year deal.
That's why this is awful for the Colts. You were already in this situation where Daniel Jones has been wobbling the last couple of weeks, and it's is that the fact that he's playing on a broken leg? Is that Jones has just turned back into a pumpkin? What exactly is happening here? As you said, he only threw 7 passes. One of them was straight to a Jacksonville linebacker. So even in small sample size world, that's not ideal. And then he goes down with an Achilles injury, which is they don't have him under contract next year. Now, what does that contract look like? How do you even sign him?
Sad for Jones too, man. He was
terrible for him. Number one,
weeks removed from being the next Darnold 3-year deal, the next Baker 3-year deal, the next guy that the Colts were going to invest in probably because they just gave up 2 first-rounders saying, we're not drafting another quarterback. Daniel Jones is probably going to be our guy.
And also, complicated. I mean, he's got a 9-month-ish, rehab schedule for a torn Achilles now to be back to play football next year. And in several of those months, he's not under contract for an NFL team, which means he's not in an NFL building, which means he's not operating using their rehab system, et cetera, et cetera. He's a wealthy man. He can afford to do that privately, but that's not ideal, right? In an ideal world, you want to be operating in a team facility to rehab your torn Achilles.
I'm assuming somebody signs him. I mean, maybe the Colts just sign him.
You can sign between now and the end of the season. Obviously, he'll get signed at some point, right? And probably by the Colts. But this contract got extremely complicated, and that's going to be an awkward transition period if they don't get him done immediately when the league year ticks over.
That's why they say, NFL coaches, GMs, they're problem solvers, right? I mean, it's a constant. It's not as simple as putting a plan together. It's a constantly moving plan. And if you're the Colts,
because your plan's going to go to hell on a random injury.
I mean, they made an all-in type of move, which on paper it's man, you're adding Sauce Gardner to Charvarius Ward at corner, and you have this very good offense that's got great playmakers and a good run game with Jonathan Taylor. Daniel Jones is running the operation efficiently. Let's upgrade that defense for the stretch run. Sauce is hurt. Now you're out your next 2 first-round picks, and now Daniel Jones is hurt. And that was the thing. When the Sauce trade happened, we said, this is a vote of confidence for Daniel Jones. This is a team saying, not just this year's first-rounder, next year's as well.
Yeah.
In a draft, which, again, might be pretty deep here. That's a big investment, not just in Sauce Gardner, who's in the prime of his career, which is fine, but also in Daniel Jones, where you're saying we're not going to use a high draft pick.
It's amazing. It is just amazing how fast things can completely unspool in the NFL. Things that you think are just set in stone halfway through an NFL season. Halfway through the year, we have a good idea of what's going on, and then 3-4 games later, it's actually no, completely the reverse is the case. And I don't even think, obviously now it looks terrible because their season's probably done now. And they're not going to make the playoffs, and therefore Sauce is not helping them win a Super Bowl this year. I still don't think that is a bad deal in isolation. Like, yes, you would now want 2 first-round draft picks because you don't have your quarterback at the moment. It's going to be complicated to re-sign him, and apparently you're not quite as good as you thought you were. However, Sauce Gardner theoretically is still one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and trading 2 first-round picks to get him is not an unreasonable sum, so it's still fine. It's just it looks bad in hindsight.
Yeah, and look, I think Sauce is fantastic when he's out there and healthy, and I think they'll get the benefits of him the next couple of days. It's just the quarterback position now.
Yeah.
It's like when you give up those 2 1s, you're saying we're not drafting our next guy over the next 2 years,
right.
At least not in the first round. And again, we'll have plenty to talk about when it comes to the Colts offseason and getting
it's just like
draft time. Do you take a mid-round quarterback? Probably.
It was a move you make because you think you're a playoff team who wants to try and really go on a charge for the Super Bowl, and actually it turns out you're not even a playoff team anymore.
So Colts, and we're going to give the Jags all their credit in a second here. We just started with the Colts.
Yeah.
Colts fall to 8-5. They've got 4 games left, all against playoff teams. Seattle Seahawks next week, then the Niners on Monday Night Football, then the Jags again, then the Texans. I mean, you could be looking 8-9.
They might not win another game.
Here.
Yeah, they might have a losing record this season, having had the number 1 seed in the AFC at the midway point in the season. That has got to be unprecedented. I don't know that. I mean, get Josh Dubois on the phone. Has that ever happened before? A team who's been the number 1 seed at the midway point,
the Jags,
ends up with a losing record and misses the playoffs.
2 years ago, the Jags were 8-3 and finished 8-9.
This is one that'll really work in your favor though, because it needs the 17-game schedule almost certainly.
Yeah, the Jags did this 2 years ago. Remember, I think in 23, I think they were 8-3 and the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
After 11 games, and then finished 8-9 and didn't make the playoffs. But this isn't negative Jags talk right now.
No, all positive today.
It is all positive.
Because this was the game where we'd been saying, look, everything had ticked up under Liam Cohen except Trevor Lawrence this season. And then Lawrence goes out there and has maybe the best game of his NFL career, absolutely balls, drops a freaking dime to Brian Thomas Jr. Like, things were going so well that even Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. were on the same page. Absolute dime, puts it in his hands deep down the field. Has another one later where it was like the textbook play that they draw up on the pro days, you know? There's going to be pressure coming in from the left. You spin out, you roll to your left, you just drop a perfect pass to Tim Patrick, who's uncovered in the middle of the field. Like, absolute perfect pass again. Trevor Lawrence, and then, also you're a dynamic running threat. Tap into that some more. Trevor Lawrence was fantastic in this game, and all the other things that had been ticked up already with Liam Cohen as the coach were still there. This was the game where Jacksonville put it together and showed this is what we could be this year if this stays.
Yeah, I wanted to rave about Lawrence just the way you did. It's another one, like the stat line's fine, 17 of 30 for 244 and 2 touchdowns, but last week I thought was the best that he played all season. I thought I was very cautious in how I said that because the Arizona game, he had 3 picks. I can't remember if it was all 3 were awful decisions, but they were pretty bad. And it's like outside of those 3 decisions, he was still trending in the right direction in that Arizona game a couple weeks ago. So you kind of saw elements of it against Arizona. Saw it last week, and it was Tennessee, and it's like, it's Tennessee. But in this game, this is the best I've seen Trevor Lawrence play in quite a while. Those throws that you mentioned, I thought almost immediately, my 2 early reactions in the 1 o'clock games were Brian Thomas Jr. feels back, just felt different, felt like he's in the right place at the right time, making a one-handed catch. Him and Trevor Lawrence, same page, making great plays. That, and then the Steelers just look different. We'll talk about them in a second. But, man, once the play that you described, Trevor Lawrence beating the overload blitz, because he's not just rolling out to do the Zach Wilson pro day throw just for fun. That was when I was
there's a reason they script that play in pro days, because it does come up a lot.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you beat the blitz? Well, Trevor Lawrence is going to just roll out, break contain against the overload blitz, and just casually throw a 27-yard handoff to Tim Patrick down the sideline. Outstanding. And that's when I'm like, all right, Lawrence is feeling it right now. And I was on the preview show on Thursday, I was subtly hinting at, look, I know a lot of quarterbacks can be streaky, but we've seen some streakiness to Trevor Lawrence's career And every time I'm like, why is this 5 or 6 game stretch? Why is it off? Last year he had elements of this too, and 2022, like there's all these little stretches that are inconsistent, and why is it not there? But then there's also stretches that look great. And I was asking,
has he turned a corner again?
It's not even a corner turn. It's like, is he ready for the 6, 7, 8 game stretch of playing well? And I would say this is the 3rd straight week. Couple turnover-worthy plays, couple picks against Arizona a couple weeks ago. But the last 3 games, we've seen some special from Trevor Lawrence. It's, by the way, coincided with the addition of Jacoby Myers as a dependable possession receiver. He had another touchdown. The great Tim Patrick with 5 catches for 78. Brian Thomas Jr., who they're moving around and putting in the slot and getting some big plays out of, 87 yards on his 3 catches. So I just think we're starting to see the receiving core come together. Brenton Strange at tight end. Travis Etienne with an outstanding long touchdown run. So a lot to like about Jacksonville. But the biggest one was they were winning games early in the season despite Trevor Lawrence and the receivers too, by the way. Lawrence wasn't playing well. The receivers were dropping passes left and right. If this offense is starting to come together and the pass game is starting to come together, they become all the more dangerous down the stretch here.
Yeah, as I said, I think this game showed the potential that has been theoretical up until this point. It's like, hey, I know the Jags are in a decent position, like they're winning some games, and everything is better under Liam Cohen, except the one thing everyone expected to be better, which is Trevor Lawrence. But we've been saying, like, the good news is that means if Lawrence ever does take that step, tick up under Liam Cohen, then this team gets immediately an awful lot better because the most important player on the roster is the guy that hasn't yet raised his game along with everybody else. I mean, I don't know if it's been necessarily the last few weeks, but this game in particular, I mean, he absolutely did. Like, this showed the ceiling of this team, which is they were handily able to go out there and put up a ton of points and yards against the Indianapolis Colts defense, which is a good unit. And they looked like one of the best teams in the NFL. Like, now, it needs Lawrence to stay there, but this showed that at least the ceiling for this Jags team right now is legit contender.
So they're now a game behind or game up on Houston, who obviously got the win against Kansas City. They still have to play one more time against Houston. But we mentioned with the Colts, like the Colts collapse right here. Even if Daniel Jones was healthy, it was potentially in the cards anyway. We already mentioned they had to play Jacksonville twice, Houston twice, and all these other playoff teams. This was possible, but the Jags are taking advantage. Riley Leonard made some decent throws in this game, got sacked for safety. Really nice play by Josh Hines-Allen.
That felt like it was going to be a design. Like early in the game, it's like almost every single drop back was some kind of terrifying, risky, almost pick, almost fumble, almost disaster play. And like, oh no, this is going to be really bad. And then actually, he kind of pulled himself together and started making some plays.
He hung in there. I mean, it's like it never got close or anything, but he hung in there.
But he went, like, I thought this was going to be like a Nathan Peterman type of performance when we first started. I'm like, dude, this guy's going to end up with 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles, a safety, and like everything bad. And actually, as the game wore on, he did start to get it together.
So, I mean, anyway, huge win for the Jags. Colts are going to be rolling with Riley Leonard here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and as much as he did pull it together, I still don't think that Riley Leonard operating this offense I don't know that can win any of their 4 remaining games. Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, and Houston. I don't think Riley Leonard is capable of winning certainly 3 of those 4 games. Maybe if San Francisco has a bad day at the office on defense, he can hang in there enough for the Colts to win that game, but that feels tough.
Jags schedule a lot more manageable. So they have the Jets this week. Then they go to Denver. Really good game. Denver probably going to try to avenge the Mark Brunell 1996 game, of course, in a couple weeks. Jags at the Colts, again, without Daniel Jones, and then the Titans. So the Jags probably heavily favored against the Jets, Colts, maybe not heavily favored against the Colts, but favored, and then the Titans, and then they go to Denver in the middle of that. So the opposite of what the Colts have. 4 very difficult games the Jags have, 3 that they should win, including against the Colts, and then the Denver game. So division's all in front of the Jags right now.
Do we know when Richardson can get back? He's still on IR.
I don't know. I didn't think that the banned eye injury would be that that bad.
Well, it's this sort of vague, freaky, I don't know what that is type of thing. Like, I don't think anyone ever because Jones is there.
I mean, Anthony Richardson's had stretches of good play too. I mean, if you want to call him a number 4 overall pick, first round bust, that's fine. But it's been, I think him as a bust is a lot different than, say, a Zach Wilson, who, if he had like 3 good games in 2 years as a starter, and it was like every time it was like, oh, look, Zach Wilson, 1 good game, and then he just, was terrible the next week. Richardson's had stretches of good play. If you could at least have him out there, I think the Colts have a chance.
Yeah, and, you can potentially have a game plan that is different for him that might actually involve some success as opposed to just hoping he executes better this week. Like,
right. I mean, Riley Leonard can run a little bit, and Notre Dame leaned into that. Shane Steichen's going to have to get creative here in the coming weeks if it's Riley Leonard. Or if Richardson could come back. All right, anything else on this one?
Nope.
Great. Let's go New Orleans Saints pulling the upset against the Bucs. What was the final? Where'd it go? 24-20. Just wanted to confirm. I like to read it, even though it's in my head. 24-20. Saints get the win to move to 3-10. Bucs fall to 7-6, and they fall into a tie for first place in the NFC South with the idle Carolina Panthers.
The idle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye week.
Yeah.
Panthers or idle. Had to explain to Harry what idle meant the other day. I'm like, it's like a bye. Because college football, they use idle sometimes as the terminology. Anyway, Tyler Shuck, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 34-yard designed run, and 1 outstanding scramble touchdown. And Saints defense holds in the comeback attempt against the Bucs to get the win to move to 3-10.
Yeah, they did. This entire game felt like it was just 4th down attempts between the two of them, and they were going in both directions. The Bucs go for it in 4th and short early with like a pitch play, and Carl Granderson just destroys it, tackle for loss. They go for another 4th and 1. This time, Demario Davis comes up and hits the running back like a wall.
Bucs were 2 for 7 on 4th down to just add some color to what you're saying here.
And then the Saints weren't doing that well with them either. They failed in their own 4th and 1 just before halftime, gave the Bucs a chance for points. I don't think they got any of them, even though the Bucs converted their own 4th and 1 on that attempt for points before halftime. And then late on, it's 4th and 4 that basically kills the game. The Saints have taken the lead. Tyler Shuck scramble. Now the Bucs are going to try and answer. It's 4th and 4. There's like 90 seconds left. Baker's trying to get it done. Late game comeback magic from Baker. He gets completion, but he's under pressure, and it's just short enough that Otten has to go to the ground to get it, and in doing so ends up like a foot short of where he needed to be. Game over. I don't think I've ever seen a game where there's every time I look up, somebody's going for it on 4th down.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Saints deserve some credit. We'll talk Tyler Shuck in a second here. Just from a Bucs perspective, another really difficult offensive outing for them. And I thought that, by the way, I meant to mention in the Jags game too, heavy rain at various points.
In Florida, generally.
In Florida, but like it looked pristine. Like both teams came out, was it the first 2 drives scoring right away? I mean, the Saints got up 7-0. Bucs answered. It was 7-7. Then the rain hit. It was a lot harder to complete passes and everything.
And it had been raining all morning, apparently.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like it was already a wet field. It started to rain. The field was getting torn to pieces during the course of the game. Like, it was rough.
So Baker finishes 14 of 30 for 122. They had no Tristan Wirfs at left tackle. And I thought that entire final drive, they had one last chance, right? They're down 4. And this was 2 ways of looking at the Bucs season. Early in the year, they had all of this late game magic, which works both ways, right? At the time, our messaging on that was they're surviving despite missing Tristan Wirfs for a month, despite all these injuries on the offensive line. They had their starting center, Graham Barton, playing left tackle, and they were just hanging by a thread on so many games. Beat Houston in week 2 by these 3rd and 4th down scrambles from Baker Mayfield, and he was an MVP candidate for 5 or 6 weeks. Everybody's like, how does this dude keep doing it? They've won 4 games within the last minute. And so we would say, look, they're finding a way to win, and they're not full strength yet. Wait till they get full strength. Instead, maybe it was like, oh, man, they're just hanging by a thread here, barely winning some of these games. How do you sustain this? Because the offense has not been the same in recent weeks. Baker's banged up. Mike Evans is not out there. Now you're missing Wirfs in this one. And I'm watching that final drive. against the Saints, who were doing a really nice job in coverage, but it felt a little bit like Baker, when he peeks over his shoulder. We always go back, you and I, to that 2019 season, Baker Mayfield's second year, when he had Greg Robinson as his left tackle, and he was just always peeking, right? It was like his pocket presence, his ability to see the field was always hindered, and it's his own fault too, but it was always hindered by this idea that I don't trust my pass protection. I started to get elements of that with Baker, even on that final drive, where early in the season he wasn't doing that, and he had, they had the same issues on the offensive line, but it's like it's getting to him more now. On top of Emeka Egbuka's dropping a touchdown, in this rain game, and he didn't have a great game, so a lot not going right here for this Bucs offense in the last month plus here.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I mean, the Egbuka drop was awful. I mean, that's a game-tying play. He absolutely roasts the cornerback on the outside with an out-and-up type of move. Baker puts it on him in the end zone. It's like a hair high, like a fraction high, but it's in his hands. You got to catch that. And he doesn't. Drops the ball, and the Bucs never got that score back. Like that was literally the difference in the game.
And if you just statistically, we say this a lot on Monday mornings, or at least I do. How was the game won or lost? Red zone, conversion downs, but on 3rd and 4th down, Baker was 2 for 8 for 10 yards, and Tyler Shuck 6 of 9 for 66 on 3rd and 4th down. And he made some really key 3rd down conversions, and then the 2 plays with his legs, man. The scramble drill touchdown was outstanding. The keeper for 34, it was one of those I looked up. Is that Taysom Hill at first? Like, those are the plays. They ran it twice in this game. A keeper for Shuck with the backside puller, with the tight end sifter, whatever you want to call him. Different terminology for everybody. But a 34-yarder for Tyler Shuck. They had a 13-yarder earlier in the red zone using Shuck in the design run game. Really impressive what they did with him. So I thought he made some key throws. Again, 144 yards on just 20 attempts. Wasn't great, but 4 or 5 third down conversions with his arm, plus the 2 touchdown runs, 3 total first downs with his legs. Pretty impressive game for the rookie.
Yeah, just Shuck Vic going ahead with the scramble there. And, of course, the point after made by Charlie Smith. Now, I'm not saying –
missed a field goal.
I'm not saying that him ghosting me is the reason that he missed that field goal, but I just think it's worth noting that he ghosted me during the week and then misses a field goal. I'm not saying one caused the other. I'm not causation, correlation, who knows. Just saying these are things that happen.
Don't embarrass the motherland.
But he did then, he had a field goal later on, made the extra point, the field goal right down the pipe. Beautiful kick, So it's still going well for Charlie. I mean, the miss was from 48, which is like, yeah, that's right that's on the line of like, okay, people miss kicks from 48, Yeah. Also, it was, had the distance was impressive, just not the direction.
Distance was impressive.
Yeah. So I'm still going well for Charlie.
It's good. Happy for Charlie.
Maybe I'll answer my text this week.
So we can ask him about missed 48-yarder. Bucs have to turn around and play Thursday Night Football. This is going to be a tough one for them. Look, I still think their the whole division comes down to them playing the Panthers 2 out of the last 4 weeks. So these other games, do they matter? Yes. Bucs Panthers in week 16, and then Panthers at Bucs in week 18. The whole season's going to come down to those 2 games for both teams.
It's just a strange game to drop. Like last week was I kind of expected them to lose last week because I expected Baker to be dealing with that injury and not look himself, and the offense to just have problems whether or not actually Baker was starting the game. Instead, he started, he played well, they won the game, and then this game you lose. It's like earlier in the season, the Bengals beating Pittsburgh unexpectedly and then coming back and losing to the Jets. It's like you beat the team I didn't expect you to beat, and then you came back and lost a random one the following week to a bad team.
For the Saints, again, I was really impressed with Tyler Shuck here. I didn't realize, so Mark Schlereth was on the call the previous week.
Stink?
Yeah, Stink, your buddy here, your meme guy. He was on the call for the game against the Dolphins where Shuck and the Saints made that comeback and failed on the 2-point conversion to try to tie it. He was raving.
I was going to say, he must think Shuck's amazing.
He does. He does. And so as an NFL fan who does this show, and I like to know the entire league, I think it's got to be tough on announcers who are stuck on one game, right? And you have to catch up on everything around the league. So sometimes you can only see what you're watching, right? So he was raving about Shuck during the week. He loves him. Thinks he's great. Shuck is going to be a fascinating test case here because the Saints, with the win, are now number 5 in the draft order. They're one of the 5 teams tied at 3-10. So a lot can change there. But I don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback. Like games like this are enough for them to say, look what he did with his legs.
Yeah.
Look what he did in tough passing conditions. Look what he did on key conversion downs. And I'll say this, of all the quarterbacks that have come out over the last couple of years, Shuck has some fans, man. Greg Cosell loved him coming out. Schlereth is raving about him. I mean, there is some fans. And, the Saints took him at 40 overall, the 3rd quarterback off the board. So, we're just trying to predict, are they going to be in the quarterback market? Are they going to roll with him? It took them some time to give him the job over Spencer Rattler, but games like this, the comeback against Miami, I think if you're a Saints fan, there's some stuff to build on there. I know for me, I'd probably hedge and grab another quarterback and just see, but I mean, we'll see what happens these next few weeks. But games like this make you think Saints are going to invest in him and just try to build the roster around him.
Yeah, perhaps.
Great. Anything else?
Nope.
You really are ready to move on. You know how fast NFL game days move. Like right now, moving through this show very quickly. But in the NFL, one big play, everything changes. That's why live betting on FanDuel is a game changer. With FanDuel, you can bet in real time while the game unfolds. Score just flipped, jump on a new spread or a live money line. The wide receiver's heating up, bet the next touchdown scorer or total yards. Think that drive stalls in the red zone? You could take a live field goal prop or fade the total. Live player props, team totals, drive results, updated spreads, next play markets. It's all there. It's fast, it's fun, and with FanDuel, your live bets move as quickly as the game does. So whether you're riding momentum or fading the hype, FanDuel puts you right in the middle of every moment. Visit FanDuel.com/33rd to download the app and bet the NFL live all season long. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Paid endorsement. What's next after the break here? The Buffalo Bills get the win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Wild game here in the snow once again. Bills 39-34 to move to 9-4 in this one, and Bengals fall to 4-9. Season all but over here for Cincinnati, but they started out hot. 3 touchdowns on their first 3 possessions, Sam.
Yeah,
and it looks like another winter wonderland. Cincinnati, disappointing game for Buffalo. Huge game to save Cincinnati's season in the weather.
What a game!
It was a wild game. Cincinnati was leading the entire game until
by 10 points on multiple occasions.
Yes. Until what was it at the time? It was 21-18.
Yep.
28-18. Where was this?
28-25.
It was 28-25. And then Christian Benford with a pick 6 on Joe Burrow to make it 32-28.
And NGS had a great stat on this. So there's 5:34 left in the game, 28-25. Cincinnati is ahead. Buffalo has been coming back. And Benford's 63-yard pick 6 increased the Bills' win probability by 61 percentage points. It went from 16.2% to 77% with that pick 6, which is the single biggest win probability swing on a play outside of the last 2 minutes in the NGS era. Well, basically, this was the single biggest swing of an individual play that occurred outside the 2 minutes of the game ever in NGS, since NGS has been tracking that stuff.
It felt like that, didn't it? Like the Bengals were handling.
It definitely felt like that. I mean, it was a bizarre, wow, what the hell just happened play. And then I think the fact that it was followed up almost immediately with another turnover was what made it be like, what just happened to this game?
Why was it such a big swing too? It's the first lead that the Bills had. The Bengals are driving, and they had answers the whole time. Like the Bills were coming back, right? I mean, Allen had this 4th down touchdown. He had some wild, incredible plays in this game. 4th down,
they both did.
They both did.
Both quarterbacks were. I mean, this would be, if this was a playoff game. If this was the if this was the AFC Championship tomorrow, you wouldn't be upset by it. Like, this was a phenomenal game. Both quarterbacks were being Superman. Obviously, we expect it from Josh Allen, but Burrow had some amazing plays. There was a touchdown he threw where it's like, it's a rollout. It's the Bills have it killed. Burrow just like pulls up, adjusts, finds something else in the middle, touchdown. They were both playing incredible ball.
Was that the Gesicki one?
Yeah, I think so.
And this is why, like, the Bengals just had answers, man. They had 3 touchdowns on their first 3 drives. It's 21-18. Then that Burrow to Gesicki touchdown. Just great feel on that one. You had the Allen touchdown to Khalil Shakir was on 4th down.
Yeah.
Scramble drill. Just
another ridiculous play.
Puts it into a tight window. It was – and all in the snow, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same – like, it's probably harder to pass in the, 30-mile-an-hour winds and all that. But it's tough in the snow, man. Throwing, the way they were throwing. And then the pick six just changed everything. I don't know. Burrow, it's a called run play, and Burrow's trying to throw a little slant route behind the run play, and I don't know if he didn't get a grip on the ball. It was a weird.
I felt like he was just trying to loft it over him and just didn't get it there. Like, I don't know if he just misjudged the loft he needed to get it over Benford, but like, I don't think he knew he was there. I think he was trying to just sort of, dink it over the top and just never made it.
Great play by Benford, who also had a sack, by the way. And they had been using him rushing off the edge subtly in the last few weeks. Great play by him to completely change things. The other key plays, turning points here. You have James Cook fumbling twice.
Yeah. The first one was fascinating. Because it was like an amazing run.
Unbelievable run.
Yeah. Which they then threw the flag, and it's like, nah, it's coming back, holding. And then the Bengals are like, we think he fumbled that over the goal line. So if that's the case, we're going to decline the holding call and take the turnover. So they look at it, and they're like, he did fumble, but we can't claim that he did it through the goal line.
It would have been like at the 1. If there wasn't a holding, he would have been out at the 1.
So they're like, we're going to give you the fumble. We're going to change the call, and therefore you don't lose the challenge, but you're not getting the ball. So you're going to have to accept the holding call. And it's bizarre. So they ended up accepting the holding call. Buffalo kept the ball. They just claimed that he did fumble it, just not through the back of the end zone. And then a few plays later, the Bills are back in the low red zone again, and this time James Cook fumbles it away for real.
DJ Turner forced the fumble right at the goal line, and that was the Bills. They would have taken the lead at that point.
Yeah, it was a go-ahead touchdown that didn't exist.
So the roller coaster of emotions watching this game, like if you're a Bengals fan watching this thing, like you just saved your season for a minute there. Give the offense the ball back. They've been cooking, doing a great job. Joe Burrow looks outstanding, full control, and obviously the pick six changed a lot. So you have that. Then you have the Bills, so they're up 32-28, and Bengals come right back. Then there's a batted pass interception. So the first one, you blame Burrow for whatever he was trying to do against Benford. Second one, batted pass goes up. Bills pick it off. They drive down, and then I think they had, and Sean McDermott had, the game-winning decision. 4th and goal. They're up 4. It's late in the game, and pretty clearly, you have 3:09 left. The normal kick a field goal to go up 7, right? And then you just trust your defense to stop a touchdown drive. And this was similar to the Dallas decision on Thursday night, except Dallas was trailing. But similar idea where it's like 4th and 3. This was a little bit closer. 4th and goal from the 3.
Yeah.
And they could have kicked the field goal to go up 7. Instead, they go for it.
And Dawson Knox had the touchdown on 3rd down, and then they couldn't come up with it. And they're like, no, they thought they had it. They're like, touchdown, 3rd down, woohoo! And then it's like, no, didn't catch it. Ball hit the ground.
Yeah.
And it's like, now we didn't. What do we do? And they end up going for it on 4th and 3. Get it?
Josh Allen to Jackson Haas, the rookie tight end. That puts them up 11. So instead of being up 7, they're up 11. And it's pretty significant because the Bengals come right back. 2 one-handed catches. Mike Gesicki up the seam, and then T. Higgins for 25 yards. Higgins, by the way, it looked like he was concussed again. He was coming off
slammed down on the turf, going up to get a one-handed stat. He had tried to catch this crazy high pass, can't come down with it. Head hits the turf as he hits the ground. Came back in the game. He spent the entire game, though. He wasn't able to catch the ball cleanly, all game. Everything was like a double catch. Took him a couple of efforts at it. It was weird. It was
snowy, man.
Right, but he was the only guy that seemed to be afflicted by it.
So anyway, I just wanted to highlight this decision by Sean McDermott. I think it's 4th and goal from the 3. I mean, it's not like a wild decision to go for it, but it's still a traditional kick it to go up 7 and trust your defense to make a stop, right? 7-point lead is pretty significant. But going up 11, it was a 4-point decision. You go up 11, and then the Bengals score right away, pretty much. 2 big plays, like I said, to Gesicki and to Higgins. They fail on the 2-point conversion, Burrow fumble, so it was a 5-point game. But I think that decision by McDermott, had they just kicked the field goal and the Bengals go down, they're tying that with a touchdown and an extra point, and who knows what happens from there. But I thought it was a huge play there, and Josh Allen it was one of the superhuman games from Allen, from Burrow too, before the interception, but from Allen in particular. That it also included in the comeback a 40-yard scramble for a touchdown. Just incredible big plays on both sides.
Yeah, that was that right after that Gesicki touchdown? It's like the answer was Josh Allen just running through the defense for like 50 yards.
It's 28-18, 7:41 left in the fourth quarter, and a 40-yard scramble.
And then right at the death, it's like 3rd and 15. The Bengals are actually, they might get a stop and get the ball back. And then 3rd and 15, Allen just decides to run through the defense again, beats one guy for speed to pick up the first down. That's all she wrote, game over. Allen had one of those Superman games. The Bengals defense has been better the last few weeks. It's still pretty terrible. And it just has no answers for somebody like Josh Allen. It's weird because, okay, if the Bengals had won this game, they would have been in this fascinating situation where, again, we talked about them as being the most mathematically alive 4-8 team in history. If they had, they could have then gone and beat a team like Buffalo, who's still obviously very much a playoff contender, and still had games within the division, and still really been alive and a threat, and Burrow playing lights out football. The problem is when you put yourself in a 4-8 situation, not only do you have no margin for error, Joe Burrow can't misjudge the flight of the ball and throw it right to Christian Benford for a pick 6, but you also can't get unlucky either. And to follow up that Benford pick 6 with a batted pass by Jordan Phillips, I think, at the line, and then it drops into the hands of A.J. Epinesa, that's kind of unlucky from the Bengals' point of view, right? Those, generally speaking, those batted passes at the line do not immediately drop into the hands of another defensive lineman. So you can't even have bad luck. The margin for error is so small that if you have one play of being unlucky, your season's toast. And that's where the Bengals were. They just put themselves into such a deep hole. They literally needed everything to go their way, and it didn't in this game.
And then just from a Bills perspective, a couple notes here. Allen finishes 22 of 28 for 251, 3 touchdowns through the air. I got to do the math on this one. It's official 9 for 78 on the ground, but he had, I think it was 2 kneels, so 7 for 80, really?
Right.
Rushing.
Which would have tied him for the team lead.
Which would have tied him for the team lead with James Cook. And then the thing to keep an eye on here, James Cook, 2 more fumbles, right? One was technically negated, but he's got 4 in 2 weeks. He had 2 against Pittsburgh last week. And, of course, they pretty much dominated that game. Didn't matter. But that's 6 on the season. And so, doesn't always get it's really tough to fumble 6-7 times in a year. But Adrian Peterson's been up there before, right? It's tough, because if you're one of the better running backs,
right,
you usually don't fumble that often. And if you're a worse running back, you just don't get as many carries. So just something to keep an eye on for the Bills in the coming weeks here is James Cook, ball security. See what happens there. But, man, Allen versus Burrow, I want to see this game twice a year. They should just be in the same division.
My overwhelming feeling about the Bengals is just one of sort of frustration because that should be a playoff team. Burrow and what that offense can do should be a playoff team, except the defense is such an absolute joke, it won't be again. Now, obviously, Burrow being hurt was part of that as well, but we saw last year, even with Burrow fully healthy, the defense is so catastrophic that they still have their backs up against the wall to even make it to the playoffs. It's so frustrating that we're not going to get to see Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Mike Gesicki and everything that they can bring to the table on offense because their defense is an absolute embarrassment.
And this wasn't all obviously there's a pick 6 in there. It's not all defense, but over the last 2 years, I haven't checked the updated Our friend Paul Daner has been putting those stats out for the Bengals over the last couple of years. Their record when scoring 30, 34. This is just add another one.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to put the arbitrary cutoff, Bengals score at least 34, and they're like 1-4 over the last 2 years or something like that.
Like, it's a weird year. There may well be a playoffs this year with no Burrow and the Bengals, no Mahomes and the Chiefs, no Lamar and the Ravens, no Dak and the Cowboys, no Jared Goff and the Lions. Like, it's a weird year, but this one feels particularly frustrating because they're not even close. Like, they needed a miracle run to even get in there, and yet they showed in this game they can go toe to toe with who we think are like legitimate Super Bowl contenders.
Absolutely. And then the broadcast did a good job highlighting that Cincinnati's defense is awful covering tight ends. Dawson Knox with a huge 6 for 93 from Dawson Knox. Dalton Kincaid came back 4 for 41 and a touchdown. And
he makes a big difference.
He makes a huge difference. Kincaid, I remember you very cautiously mentioned the name Travis Kelce when Dalton Kincaid came out as a prospect. Not that he was going to be the Hall of Famer, but subtle things to his game. And I think this whole season when Kincaid's been out there healthy, it just looks different. He's open, it's smooth, he's on the same page with Allen. He's an absolute difference maker. And I think and Dawson Knox had a great game as well. They looked like they had 130-something yards between them, plus Jackson Haas, the rookie tight end, had a catch as well. So a well-rounded effort, I think, for Buffalo's offense, and just an important one for them to handle this onslaught from the Bengals offense and find a way to come back and get the win. So they're 9-4. They're playing New England in the big rematch this week. It's going to be tough to win the division at this point, but at 9-4, they're in the driver's seat for the 5 seed. And here's why that's important. The 5 seed most likely plays the AFC North division winner. You could make the argument that you're better off.
That's the best seed to get.
You could make the argument. I'm just saying, like, if the playoffs started today, Buffalo goes to Pittsburgh in a 4-5 game. And New England hosts the Texans in a 2-7 game. You could easily make the argument that Buffalo would rather see Pittsburgh than Houston. So important win to just control that 4 seed, which is most likely playing the AFC North winner, which right now looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers, not the Baltimore Ravens. So we'll see how that all plays
they
out.
would be favorites to that game. What were they? That we've seen that game recently, right? What was the
they
line?
just smoked them last week.
Right, but what was the line? It was Bills were exactly this game. They were 3.5-point favorites on the road. So, and they just won a game since that point. So, and the Steelers, so that's the type of if that happened again tomorrow, they would almost certainly be more than a field goal favored on the road in the playoffs.
You ready to talk some Steelers?
Yeah.
Steelers in first place in the AFC North once again. 27-22 win over the Baltimore Ravens. Steelers move to 7-6. Ravens fall to 6-7. Another wild game back and forth. Let me start with you. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Well, the first thought is, of course, this happened. This is what we predicted coming in. For the second week in a row, we've predicted a game that, for no good reason, was going to end in a particular way. There's no X's and O's reason you're going to come up with it. There's no actual form book that's going to point you in this way. But, of course, the Carolina Panthers were going to go and beat the Rams because naturally, because they're the most schizophrenic team in the NFL. Of course, Mike Tomlin was going to go out here and right as everybody's writing him off and firing everybody and wrapping up this whole experiment, Mike Tomlin was going to go out there and beat the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, on the road, in the division, when everyone's been saying this is the game where Pittsburgh finally gets knocked back down to where they're supposed to be. But only this time, I actually had the courage of my convictions and picked it, as opposed to just predicting it was going to happen and then not picking it.
That's kind of the power of Tomlin, right? It's like when your back's against the wall, that they find a way. Now, there was some interesting...
This is why he gets to wear aviators and go out there looking cool. It's this game.
Yeah. There was other interesting storylines with this, right? Because you had Aaron Rodgers coming off of an awful 3-game stretch in which he broke his wrist or whatever it was. He played through this injury, looked terrible. But right before the game, they had these reports. They had their best week of practice. Right? He's calling out his receivers during the week.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, right? Like, this is the human element to football is like when it seems like it's all bad.
Well, we said it was...
Guess what? You could correct it, right? You could practice better. You could make a few moves. You can improve. Like, it doesn't mean it's just going to, he's calling out his receivers. He's looking bad. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad forever. They fixed it.
We said it was going to be a week of come to Jesus meetings in that Pittsburgh building, right? If there was going to be any juice whatsoever left in this Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers aura, and those are real things. Like, Mike Tomlin is an impressive leader. He is able to command a room. Aaron Rodgers, the reverence that the Jets showed him when he first rocked up in the building, maybe that's lost some luster since then. But the point is, these are two guys with an awful lot of credit built up in the bank, specifically within the building. Forget the fact that Steelers beat reporters are done with Mike Tomlin. In the building, those guys have got a ton of built-up credit in the bank. That probably still has some resonance. And if it was going to have anything left, this was the week where it was going to make some kind of impact. And, Rodgers is out there saying everything's bad. We need to get on the same page. We need guys in the meeting room. We need guys watching tape. It had an effect. They looked different in this game. But
before the game, there was the report that they had a great week of practice. Rodgers said, great week. They signed Adam Thielen.
We added a 2018 Pro Bowler.
They got their 2018 Pro Bowler. They worked hard. DK, they're on point, whatever. And then right off the bat, first play, Aaron Rodgers hits DK in stride, 52-yard.
Bomb.
Just
over Marlon Humphrey.
And my initial, again, I'm watching all the 1 o'clock games, my initial overreaction to the games, I was like, the Steelers just look different. It just looks different immediately. And it just felt like they were going to win this game. And every time the Ravens made a bit of a comeback, and there's some reasons why this happened, and the near touchdown, we'll figure out what happened there. But to me, it just immediately felt like the Steelers were going to win this game. And Rodgers hits that deep ball, and then he hits a couple others. And all of a sudden, it's like, this is the best I've seen Aaron Rodgers throw the ball and have command of the offense in 4 years. This is the best Aaron Rodgers I've seen in years. And even simple stuff like he was taking snaps under center, right? He couldn't do that a couple weeks ago with the busted wrist and everything. So it just felt different immediately from Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. DK goes 7 catches for 148 and hits Calvin Austin for a 31-yarder in a key situation. And then the eventual game-winning touchdown, absolute coverage bust where, again, Rodgers has the answers to a Ravens blitz and hits Jaylen Warren wide open in the flat. And I just thought Rodgers had full command and was making those special throws. It was the best I've seen him in years.
The deep shot did make me wonder, though, why have they been on this ridiculous run of they haven't had a significantly long pass in 2 months or something. You know what I mean? It's why are they not doing this 5 times a game to DK Metcalf? The dude is one of the biggest, strongest, fastest wide receivers in the NFL whose special skill is vertical threat. And Rodgers clearly still has an arm to be able to deliver those passes. Why are we not just taking 5 random shots a game over the top with DK Metcalf?
I don't know. I've been saying that about the Steelers for years anyway, is when they had other deep threats, and Big Ben was at the end of his career. It's you don't have to dink and dunk it. Just take a few shots. Take a few shots. The Steelers are weird, man. You just don't know.
The Steelers are weird.
Right? It's like Tomlin. I didn't see his press conference this week. He probably had that smirk he just knew he was going to win this week. You want me to fired? I'm going to win this week. It's the Ravens. They have one game a year where they kind of own the Ravens or in Lamar. And there was elements of that in this game. And the Ravens were still able to come back. And they still the Ravens ran for 217.
Yeah.
And the Steelers ran for 34. Wild disparity here.
It did feel like late in the game, the Steelers defense was going to crap itself to the point where this game went away from them. I agree with you. Early on, it's the Steelers are they're feeling it. They're a different team. They're going to go out and win this game. It's going to be relatively comfortable. And then their defense just started to do what their defense has done all this season, which is not make the plays when they needed to. Baltimore's making the comeback. They're executing it. They then score. Or so we thought. And then on review, we decided they did not score.
So Lamar Jackson hits Isaiah Likely for what would have been the go-ahead touchdown.
Yep. In the end zone, ball's in his hands, 2 feet are down, and then the Steelers player, whoever it was it Queen? Breaks it up, forced it out of his hands. You're but, that was after he'd scored. And then we went into the review, and it's no, apparently he didn't have it for long enough, based off some random arbitrary determination. That's a touchdown in today's NFL, and has been a touchdown for a while.
So he goes catch, 2 steps.
Yep.
The problem was the 3rd step.
But you don't need a 3rd step in the end zone.
You do.
You don't.
You do.
You don't.
There does not need to be
a 3rd step.
there needs to be some sort of finished.
There simply doesn't. They've called that a touchdown in the last few years.
Well, because I saw somebody compare it to the Packers-Steelers game earlier this year, where I think it was Freiermuth in the end zone, but he took like 4 steps before the ball got knocked out. This was 2 steps. You have to have the third step or some sort of move. Now the argument for this is that Isaiah Likely was holding the ball away from the defender, and that's your football move. That's that's your control of the ball.
There is no when you have 2 feet down in the end zone, you've scored. The play is over. There's no let's wait an arbitrary amount of time for him to do something weird with the football, an act common to the game. Like, number one, a third step is not a thing. There's nowhere in the rule book that you need a third step.
Gene Steratore had the breakdown.
Yeah, Gene Steratore is often full of shit when it comes to his breakdowns. There's no third step, right? The term in the rule book is something like an act common to the game or whatever it is, right?
All right.
So, but you don't need that in the end zone.
Gene Steratore, number one, to have a completed pass, the receiver must, 1, secure the ball.
Yes, done.
Check. 2, have both feet or a body part.
Done.
Other than hands inbounds. Check. 3, perform a football move, which involves take a third step, tuck the ball away, turn upfield, avoid/ward off an opponent.
Done.
Or to maintain control of the ball long enough to do so. And he's got a big
Also
X
done.
on there.
Yeah.
The third element was not met, and the ball came loose prior to the receiver completing the third element. That's Gene's read on the situation.
So Gene is wrong based off precedent that's been set previously when they changed this. Like, this type of play was happening all the time where guys were scoring touchdowns, defenders were raking at the ball, and then they were like, no, we're going to call that incomplete. And then they were like, you know what, that's ridiculous. These guys are catching the ball. They're getting 2 feet down. They're in the end zone. The play's dead. It's over. They've scored. So we're going to start actually awarding those touchdowns. They started to award those touchdowns. And then this game, randomly, we've decided that we're going to go back 8 years, and we're going to call this an incomplete. Even though by Gene's own checkmark definition, he held the ball away from a guy, and he held it, I think, for long enough that you would call it a touchdown. So in 2 separate ways, the third part checked.
I thought 2 feet down, almost a third foot down, just to confirm it, but the holding the ball away might be the thing.
Right.
The last few minutes of the game involved several calls and or penalties that did not go the Ravens' way.
Yes.
Just a few of them.
This was a badly officiated game.
The other one, earlier in the game, there was a 4-point penalty. The Steelers kick a field goal, and they got some sort of personal foul on Baltimore that Gene disagreed with. Became a 4-point penalty. But late in the game, so the other one was, it looked like Aaron Rodgers threw a batted pass interception. Ends up becoming a great play by Rodgers.
That was the Kate Otten play that we talked about before.
Yeah, so...
except this one was even more sketchy.
So Rodgers throws the ball, it gets batted up, it comes back to him. He goes up, catches it.
Yeah.
And then someone from the Ravens is ripping the ball out of his hands, but Rodgers is coming down with it. He grabs possession first, he's coming down with it, knee hits the ground, and then right after his knee hits the ground, Ravens pull it away. So they initially called it an interception.
Yes.
If you remember the Kate Otten play, it was Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago, and you were like, I was going to say pulling your hair out about this call.
Wow.
But I'm just saying, it was just rolling off my tongue, and then I hesitated, and then I went back to it.
Yeah.
But you were upset about this call because Kate Otten caught the ball, he had his knee down, holding the ball.
With the ball in his possession.
And then the Rams ripped it out of his hands.
Correct.
And they were like, well, he never had possession. So the Steelers the Rams take it for a pick six.
Kate Otten was down by contact.
Yes.
With the ball in his hand, in his possession. And they were like, no, doesn't count.
So this was a similar play with Rodgers.
So this was, I thought initially it was basically the same play where Aaron Rodgers has possession of the football, his knee touches the ground, and therefore he's down by contact, and that's exactly what they called. When they showed a replay from the other angle, what makes this one even sketchier than the Kate Otten one, which in my opinion should have been 100% he's down by contact, even though there's a guy clawing at that football and about to rip it loose, I think there's clearly a moment in time where he has possession, his knee is down, he's therefore down by contact, the play is over. This one, though, what made it slightly different is that I think Rodgers is trying to just throw the ball onto the ground. Like, I think he's trying to create an incompletion And it just so happens that like both of his hands are on the ball effectively with it in his possession.
You think Rodgers is trying to bat it?
Yeah, right at the end, not bat it, but right at the end you can see him basically trying to push the ball through a wall of bodies to the ground, as in, like, I'm going to throw this down to make it an incompletion, right? So that's where it gets trickier, because if that is what he's trying to do, well, the ball doesn't ever hit the ground, and therefore whoever intercepts it, I mean, if that's what he's trying to, it's not an incomplete pass, is what I'm saying. So he has to basically rely on there being an accidental moment in time where the ball is in his possession while he's trying to get rid of it from his possession, put his knees down. But I do think that that's the correct interpretation of that rule.
So that was a massive play.
Yeah.
So you've got the likely play with 2:47 left. Where was the Rodgers play? Was that after?
That was before that, right?
That was before.
I think.
And then amidst all of this stuff going on, Ravens have this, so the likely play happens. They have to settle for a field goal. It's 27-22. In the fourth quarter, as much as I'm raving about Rodgers and this offense, when the Steelers needed to run the clock, they could not do it. The Ravens did give their offense multiple opportunities. The Steelers went 3 and out on all 3 fourth quarter drives.
Yikes.
They had 9 plays for 3 yards. So they continue to give the Ravens more plays. So the other play, and I'm not questioning the call or anything like that, this is the significant play here. When the Steelers punted the final time, the Ravens get a return, and it looked like they were going to have the ball. So the Steelers punted from their own 11, right? So Ravens down 5, about 2 minutes left. They punted with 2:08 left, right? They were going to get the 2-minute warning.
They had like a perfect 2-minute drive to try and win the game.
They did, and it's a 53-yard punt, returned 8 yards to the 44 of Baltimore, but there's an offensive hold. It puts them back at the 26. So they have no timeouts left in a minute 56. Still plenty of time, but a 20-yard penalty essentially.
Right.
Again, not saying it's right or wrong, just saying like that is what killed the Ravens. And I thought the Ravens ran an awful 2-minute drill.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson drops back.
I mean, they burned a minute and didn't go anywhere.
2 checkdowns. It was an incomplete pass so they're holding on the first play to make it 1st and 20. So now they're at the 16. And now you got 1st and 20, and they check down twice for 4 yards and then for 8 yards, a scramble for 8. Am I reading this right? No. Yeah, check down for 6, check down for 4. And then Lamar scrambles for 8 to make it 4th and 2, and they convert the 4th and 2. But with 47 seconds left, they burnt over a minute to get to a 4th and 2.
They started this, right? They started the drive with 1 minute 56 left, so almost a full 2 minutes. 1st and 10 in their own 26, right? They had 47 seconds left at 4th and 2 in their own 34. So they'd only moved 8 yards and had burned more than a minute.
It was
and then had to use their third timeout before that point, or the third timeout.
They had 1 timeout left, and they used the third right before
to get to that 4th and 2.
Yes.
So by the time they had the first down again, they were 1st and 10 on their own 42. So they didn't move. What is that? 16 yards. In a minute and a half. It's like now you've got 30 seconds basically to go the rest of this, and you need a touchdown.
And then it was just, okay, we could take some shots at the end zone. And they didn't even get to that. Lamar sacked by Alex Highsmith to seal it.
So they got to one shot, 3rd and 1 from the Pittsburgh 30. So maybe you've got 2 shots with 9 seconds left, just put it in the end zone twice, and Lamar just takes a sack for game over.
Yeah, it was
bad.
Look, you could say he threw the game winner to Isaiah Likely. You can make that point, but it was an awful 2-minute drill from Baltimore where they still had an opportunity. And we know the significance of this game. Steelers get the win, they're 7-6. Ravens fall to 6-7. Steelers have full control of the division right now. They will have a rematch in a couple weeks, but this is the game that we were pointing to for weeks. And look, Baltimore's defense still has issues. They did a nice job in the run game at late to give the Ravens opportunities to win this game. But that busted coverage, I think it was Mike Green probably that was supposed to peel off and cover Jaylen Warren out of the backfield. He didn't do it. They still have issues, and the Steelers were down to 3rd string left tackle. Like, you just didn't feel the pass rush again from Baltimore. It is their worst defense in a while, and even though they had been better in recent weeks, now against rejuvenated Steelers offense, they couldn't make the stops when they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Or they gave up a lot of big plays. They made fourth quarter stops, but Pittsburgh, give them credit, man. They find a way when their back's against the wall.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, by the way, threw out this idea of you need to survive the ground on a catch. That's a thing for the ground forcing a completion or forcing an incompletion or not. It's not if somebody's ripping at the ball, that's different. Like you don't have to survive the ground when it's a case of somebody ripping the ball away from your hands. Like when you're down with the ball in your possession and you're being contacted, the play's over, you're down by contact. The survive the ground thing is if you're catching the ball and falling to the ground, you need to make sure you don't lose control of that ball because the ground forces it. It's a different rule or a different part of the same rule, I guess.
All right, anything else on this one?
Nope.
I like the way the rest of the 1 o'clock games are sorted here. Get some blowouts. Minnesota Vikings get the win over the Commanders, 31-0. Moving to 5-8. Commanders fall to 3-10. JJ McCarthy,
9.
This wasn't 9. This was JJ. 16 of 23 for 163, 3 touchdowns, passer rating of 129.2. JJ McCarthy, his best game as a pro. Minnesota. Pretty dominant game here, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Extremely dominant. I mean, that Vikings defense the last few weeks has been phenomenal. Remember, like early in the season, they had this stretch where they were getting a little bit exposed, and you're like, oh no, has the Flores thing ran out of juice early this year? Or maybe their defense is going to be in trouble down the stretch. Well, Flores has like redoubled his efforts, and that defense the last couple of weeks has been incredible. Last week, nobody noticed because they were getting wrecked on the other side of the ball. This week, it's like, the reverse is true. Josh Dubow from the AP had a tweet. The Vikings are the 5th team in the Super Bowl era to shut out an opponent the game after being shut out themselves, according to Sport Radar. Last happened with the 1992 Broncos, who lost 30-0 against the Eagles in Week 3 and then beat the Browns 12-0 in Week 4.
Wow.
So this was just a wild turnaround. I mean, okay, it's Washington, and Washington's defense is pretty terrible, but the Vikings look good on offense. Their defense, once again, was amazing. Andrew Van Ginkel did the thing that he does, which is I'm going to bat the ball, pick it off myself, and, instant individual turnover. Jaden Daniels got blocked to the ground, chasing it down, and went straight to the tent. And it's like the medical people on Twitter were like, you see, the thing is, that's just a lot of force to throw through an elbow that's recently been dislocating. Like, well, if that's the case, then what's he doing out there? Like, the whole point was the season's toast. Only put him out there when he's healthy. If you're telling me that, oh, yeah, he's healthy, but if he takes any kind of shot to that elbow again, even with a brace on it, we're going to have some problems. Well, then don't play him. I mean, that felt like a problem.
That ended Daniel's day, right?
Yeah.
9 of 20 for 78, plus that pick by Van Ginkel. That set up a field goal to put the Vikings up 17-0 at that point. What an incredible play, the way he does that, Van Ginkel.
It's amazing. He's the best in the NFL at that. The Vikings opening, all started well for Minnesota, like opening drive touchdown. I think they said that was their first touchdown in 23 possessions.
Sounds right. JJ throws, he had some really nice throws in this one. Laser up the seam to Josh Oliver for the touchdown. Commanders come right back. They drive down, but they go incomplete on 4th down. They had 3 shots from the 1.
Right.
Incomplete to Deebo Samuel, or from the 2, whatever it was. Minnesota follows up with a 19-play, 98-yard drive.
Mm-hmm.
That was the game right there. The Commanders get stopped on the goal line.
They couldn't stop them.
The Vikings go 98 yards on 19 plays. And we've been hearing all these stories that Dan Quinn's taken over play calling and the Commanders' defense is better in recent weeks. It's like they played like a game and a half of decent football on defense. Like they're still
against some pretty rough.
They still
opposition.
don't rush the passer and they don't cover well. It's just what Washington's defense is.
Those are not great things.
Yeah, it's not good at all. And, J.J. McCarthy had some really nice 3rd down throws here, a nice deep out to Jordan Addison, a little dump off to Justin Jefferson, who turned it into a 1st down. Like, we started to get the feel for using all the various playmakers, using the tight ends. Look, 16 of 23 for 163. Very Michigan.
It was.
As you said last night.
Yeah.
They ran the ball 34 times. J.J. throws it 23 times for 163. The Michigan score.
This was what this
Fox
season
score.
was supposed to look like. Like the whole point is, look, he's got Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason in the backfield. He's got Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson, and there's, receiving weapons everywhere. And for only the second time this season, the starting 5 offensive linemen that he was supposed to have all year long actually started the game. So this is what this was supposed to look like. And in those circumstances, J.J. McCarthy is supposed to go out there and be able to throw, 16 of 23 for 163 yards and 3 touchdowns without screwing up. And he did. So at least we saw, okay, that's still in there. Theoretically, this guy is still capable of executing this type of offense. Now, obviously, you do have the caveat of it was against Washington's defense, and Washington's defense is pretty terrible. And even then, you're the offensive line being healthy for the first time or second time, I guess, is great. Darisaw is still clearly on some kind of pitch count. He's not 100% healthy, but you're like, that's great. It's Washington's pass rush. They don't really have a pass rush. So it's, the easy button is on in this game. But even the Vikings had been so bad this year that it's an achievement to do well even with the easy button on, right? Playing on rookie mode is better than nothing.
You need to see some They needed to see some positive signs.
Exactly. Now, if you're trying to nitpick or whatever, you'd be like, Justin Jefferson coming out of a game with 11 yards against Washington's defense is not ideal. You would hope that you could get more from that. But it's encouraging that we at least saw, look, again, this is theoretically what J.J. McCarthy was supposed to be doing all season long. The fact that it's at least possible is encouraging.
I mean, it was a game flow thing, but the touchdowns that McCarthy threw, a quick out to Hawkinson, I liked the patience on the drag route. He had threw 2 to Josh Oliver, the seam route, and then the patience on the drag route that reminded me of a lot of touchdowns Darnold had last year in the red zone where, letting the play unfold. You need the time in the pocket as well. Hit the shallow for a touchdown. Those were all good things.
Quick catch to Hawkinson, by the way. So there was, on the one hand, there were several plays on defense this week that sort of reminded you can still play good defense and hit and wrap up and blah, blah. There were also several plays where 3 or more defenders took themselves out at the same time, and the ball carrier just ends up walking into the end zone. So Hawkinson's got 3 guys converging on him, and all 3 of them somehow conspired to take themselves out. And Hawkinson just sort of spun around and then steps into the end zone with nobody there.
I've made the statement on the show that the Texans defense, I've probably made it about the Texans, Broncos, and maybe Seattle. Those defenses make you wake up the next morning and question everything about your offense, right? The Commanders' defense can have the opposite effect, where it's everything's positive, everything feels good. So, anyway, credit the Minnesota Vikings for, first off, Florida's defense was great last week as well.
Yeah.
They were just put into a bind against Seattle. They did a great job against that offense. Really nice job against Washington. They're trending in the right direction. He's creating havoc like he usually does. Harrison Smith had an interception, the old man. And then the only other thing we need to mention here, not only Jaden Daniels' injury, but Zach Ertz goes down with a torn ACL.
That might be a career ender for him.
Might be a career ender. I mean, we're talking, he was visibly upset. Everyone on the field visibly upset.
That was a horrible injury.
It's been an awesome career for Zach Ertz.
It's not even one where, a lot of the times you see tight ends with their legs planted and a guy goes through their knee. He was up in the air and he was just hit so hard that his knee just the wrong way and then he gets flipped. But it's like his knee's already torn before he's even flipped. Just on contact, his knee just went. That sucks for him. He was still playing well. He's still a really important part of that offense. And at his age, that might be a career ender. So that would be a really crappy way to go out. The other thing that I want to mention is one of the IPP guys has been playing defensive football for Washington the last couple of weeks. Now, unfortunately, it's the one with the name which is most difficult to pronounce. But
shot.
I will. TJ Magaranga? Something like that.
Perfect.
Former rugby player who's now playing as I think an edge rusher for them or an off-the-ball outside linebacker type of deal.
Probably their best pass rusher.
He's been getting snaps the last couple of weeks. So our guy, Dominic Fevrier-McPherson, the head of the IPP, messaged me last week. It was like, hey, he's getting snaps and will next week. So that's cool, seeing one of those IPP guys actually getting playing time.
Something to keep an eye on every week now with the 3-10 Commanders.
Magaranyanga, I think, is probably
nice.
That's as good as I'm going to get, I think.
Anything else on this one?
No.
Let's go Seattle Seahawks 37. Atlanta Falcons 9. Seahawks moved to 10-3, tied for the best record in the NFC right now with their division rival Rams, by the way, both at 10-3. Falcons fall to 4-9 and officially out of the playoff picture. It was a close game until it wasn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. It feels like, the score is like this must have been a beatdown start to finish, but it really wasn't. It was close at the half, right?
It was 6-6 at the half.
Even then, Seattle gets a turnover, Bijan fumbles it. It's still only 13-6. When did this game really get out of control?
So it was 6-6 at the half, and then opening kickoff, Rashid Shaheed returns it for a 100-yard touchdown. So I think I can't remember. I mentioned special teams.
Here you go. So it didn't get to more than a score until 6:16 left in the third quarter, and then from that moment on, it got insane.
Yeah. So it was 6-6 at the half. Kickoff return for a touchdown for 100 yards by Rashid Shaheed to make it 13-6. I mentioned special teams, I think, twice on the preview show. I think it was Dolphins-Jets. It would have been Dolphins-Jets, and it would have been this game, where Seattle's special teams was so much better.
And both had a touchdown
return? There was big special teams EPA disparities in these two games. Seattle, Atlanta, Jets, Dolphins, and they both came true. In this case, it was Seattle, one of the best special teams units, and Atlanta, one of the worst. So you get the special teams touchdown, and then Darnold makes two awesome throws to Jackson Smith and Jigba. One's a 28-yard touchdown. That's when it became 20-6. Darnold tacks on two more touchdowns in the fourth quarter, Cooper Kupp, and then another nice one to JSN, and that's what turned into a 37-9 game. But it was the kickoff return for a touchdown, then the Bijan fumble.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is the Falcons in a nutshell. Not that they would have won this game, but it's a close game. But I just keep saying they've been just playing losing ball in recent weeks. It's kickoff return touchdowns. It's punt return touchdowns. It's fumbles at the wrong time. Just bad ball, man. And Seattle took advantage.
Yeah, the fact that they had kept this so close for so long, their defense, which has been kind of all over the place this year, good, bad, they were making some plays. They forced Darnold into a relatively rough-looking interception. They had him under pressure, rolling to his left, forced throw. One of those sort of, it's challenged at the catch point and then ends up getting tipped and picked off. They were playing well, and they were keeping this tight. And then when it went away, it just went away fast. The Bijan fumble, that was Jaron Reed, who had only just been brought back to the team, activated, with the club on his hand, cast it up in the club, just club on the football. That's taking the punch to the next level. When
I
you've
think
got
I
the
would
cast
wear a
at
club
hand,
regardless, just for the punch.
like
right?
Patrick Willis, right? Just run in there. I'm going to club this thing loose. Hell yeah.
I would do that. Other things that of note here. Nicky Manwari blocked field goal in this one, made some other big plays.
That was the play. It's the play you never make. It's the one guy off the edge who's always kind of unblocked because the chances are he's not able to make that because he has to go so far and so fast. Well, Manwari, the sort of physical freak show, is actually able to make that play, just gets his fingers to it, blocks it. Great play.
He is such a good athlete. We spend so much time in the offseason talking about the draft and draft trends and history and everything. It's funny because safety is one of those positions where historically I think athleticism is overrated because it's such a see the game. What do you have a term for this? Seeing the game. It's not play speed, but something with your eye discipline or something. It's such a seeing the game at the right way, reaction type of position that I think athleticism can be overrated. So then you have a guy like Kyle Hamilton who doesn't run a great 40, but he's an awesome football player, and it doesn't matter. But Manwari is the type of guy who's such an incredible athlete that he's making a difference, covering tight ends, playing the run, blocking punts. He had a sack in this game as well. Be careful with the stat line stuff that's out there. I saw it on Twitter, right? He had 6 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for a loss, a QB hit, a pass breakup, an interception. A lot of those plays are double counted in the stat line, but that's what he did in this game. Sack, interception, another tackle for a loss, blocked field goal. He's making such an impact for that Seattle defense. I guess my whole point in this whole thing is he's an incredible athlete, which doesn't always work at the safety position, but when it does work, you're seeing this a little bit with Cole Bishop with the Bills. You have a chance at that position to make impact plays every week, and that's what Manwari's doing. And Seattle didn't need that, but they still got it. The defense was already great without him. They got Julian Love back. They have him back. it just continues to trend in the right direction. Seattle's defense looks outstanding.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's one of the more dominant units in the NFL. When was the JSN touchdown? Was that the one?
The one in the middle of the third quarter, and then the one in the fourth quarter. I thought loved Darnold's pocket movement to hit him on the crossing route.
Was the one in the third quarter? Was that the one where AJ Terrell was an absolute disgrace on the play?
Probably. It was 28. That was the 28-yarder.
Let me just check that. That's the key. It's definitely one of the touchdowns.
Just to touch while you're finding that. Darnold, I thought, had a really nice game after the pick, too. 20 of 30 for 249, the 3 touchdowns. Him and JSN had a really nice second half. They got Rashid Shaheed 4 catches for 67. And again, I thought the third touchdown that Darnold threw, pocket movement, reminded me of other plays that he's had in Minnesota, tight red zone where he creates a little bit of space, stays calm and composed, and then executes the throw. I thought that was really nice.
So this is, it's Seattle it's second 11 from the Atlanta 28, and they're 13-6 up, right? So they've gotten that opening kick return touchdown by Rashid Shaheed to put them up a score. But it's still a close game at this point, right? This is the score that really starts the rot for Seattle/Atlanta and makes the game go away from them. JSN is matched up one-on-one with AJ Terrell on the right side of the field. It's like old school, not quite I formation, offset I, and he just runs like a small sort of dig route in behind the linebacker and ahead of AJ Terrell. It's like, all right, fine. JSN's a really good receiver. We've seen that. He's able to cook everybody. He gets to the 14, 13-yard line. A.J. Terrell does not even attempt to tackle him. Instead, he just like swings an arm around behind him, ostensibly to punch the ball out. Doesn't get close to it. And then just leaves him, lets him walk in to the end zone. Like he's got another 13 yards to run. If he just makes that tackle, it's first down, maybe at the 12-yard line. Like you still
a one-score game.
It's still a one-score game, and your defense has been playing well. You can hold them to a field goal from that point. That is a disgraceful attempt. It's because it's not even a tackle attempt. He's just gone to swipe at the football, having been beaten for a first down. It's already a bad play, and you've turned it into a terrible play by not even attempting to tackle him. That's one of the most disgraceful defensive plays I've seen in the entire weekend.
Falcons, bad ball.
Mm-hmm.
Seahawks with 2 second-half interceptions on Cousins, who finishes, by the way, he was the quarterback. 15 of 30 for 162 and 2 picks. Not necessarily on him, a couple tip passes. Kyle Pitts had a really nice game, 6 for 90.
Yeah.
90 out of the 162.
Really nice diving grab on deep ball.
Yeah, Pitts looked really good in this game for whatever that's worth. The one other thing I wanted to add here, we have to do our usual weekly draft pick update.
That was another tiny play that went against Atlanta when the game was close. Like they hit Kyle Pitts for this diving grab. Then they thought Darnell Mooney beat Josh Jobe down the sideline for a touchdown. Turns out he just stepped out whilst going past him. Like that's a 4-point step.
Yeah.
That cost them.
That was a good throw by Cousins.
It was a good play as well. It's just unlucky. Like he did beat Jobe, but because Jobe was such a large guy to get around, but in going around him, he put one step on the whitewash, and can't do that when we're reestablishing and be the first guy to touch it. That's unlucky.
So as of right now, Atlanta would have the number 9 pick still, 4-9. They're tied at 4-9.
With have it, you mean our shipping to Los Angeles?
They would have the number 9 pick, but it's the Rams.
Yes.
James Pierce, the guy they traded for, did have his 6th sack in 5 games. Another nice.
He's been playing
rush.
Well. I mean, it's a little bit like the Colts thing. It's like it never feels good when you're not in a great situation and you don't have the high draft pick that should be headed your way. But, James Pierce has been a good expenditure of that pick so far.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good because you're 4-9 with him.
And it's not just that pick. It's like,
right.
the net of the trade, which is complicated. But if you just say, this is our first-round draft pick, it is James Pierce, you can make an argument that that's fine.
And then for Seattle, I mean, if you were story of the 2025 season, the year of elite defenses, obviously offenses are in there too, but you've got the Broncos and Texans and the AFC. You've got Seattle and the Rams. You could put the Eagles maybe in that bucket, what they've done over the last couple of years. Seattle's right there with a championship caliber defense. They're going to play the Colts next week with probably Riley Leonard, and then they've got the showdown coming off that short week, the rematch against the Rams at home, and then they have the Panthers and Niners. So it's just fascinating. Second straight year right now, Sam Darnold, 10-3, tied in the same division with it. Sam Darnold just can't get away from other great teams in his own division, because last year they had that one game where it's either 1 seed or 5 seed. We might be facing something similar in a couple weeks. It won't be week 18, but something similar where the 1 seed's going to be on the line against the Rams and the loser is going to fall to the 5 seed.
And he can't seem to get away from the team that has his number. Like, not only is he in the division with a team that is really good as well, but that team specifically seems to cause problems. Like, you had the Lions. I mean, the Lions, it was more the Florida side of things. They had the Vikings number, and then you had the Rams who ruined them. And now it's the Rams just twice in the same year. I mean, Seattle honestly looks as good as any team in the NFL. But if they have to go through the Rams at any point in the playoffs, I think you would favor the Rams, which is not ideal for them.
Really quick in the chat that we're going way too soft on the Falcons trade versus, say, Will Anderson a couple years ago. The difference in that one wasn't a 3-for-1 swap.
Right.
It was next year's first, which is going to turn out to be pretty bad as far as being 9 overall. But it's not 3 players versus 1, right? There were other picks exchanged. The Will Anderson trade was 3 versus 1 versus this just being next year's 1, which is going to turn into pick number 9 or, top 10 pick, presumably here.
Yeah, and look,
but that's the difference.
I think overall.
And later in the show, by the way, I've come back around on this Will Anderson thing. Is he worth 3 players? I mean, look at what that Texan, look at the impact that him and Hunter have on that Texans defense. You could make the case that Will Anderson is worth 3 players because of the impact that he has on that defense.
I think both of us have softened on the Will Anderson thing, even in hindsight, looking back at it and saying, look, there's some value to the blue chip element of this. Now, this is where it gets more complicated, because I don't think that James Pierce Jr. would take that blue chip bucket. Like, it's not the same thing as you're so certain that Will Anderson Jr. is basically the best defensive player in that draft that it's worth paying a premium to get it. James Pierce Jr. is a significantly more risky pick than that, I think. But the cost was less. So it's it's still debatable.
And, we're not going to get into the whole thing again. We're going to rave about the Texans in a little bit.
I mean, there were more than enough red flags surrounding James Pierce Jr. that I wouldn't have made that trade. But now it's looking okay, even though one of the picks involved turns out to be a lot higher than you thought it was going to be.
Let's go Miami Dolphins 34, New York Jets 10. Dolphins are 6-7, Sam.
Yeah.
Kids love that.
Still theoretically alive, though practically not.
Jets fall to 3-10. Dolphins got up early, never really looked back. Other than the big special teams, the Jets have one of the best special teams units and return units in the NFL. So they had a punt return, 78-yard touchdown again for a touchdown to make it 21-7.
How many return touchdowns that guy had this year?
A lot. I've done 2. Little spoiler. I've done a little bit of special teams / punt return research for this show, but it's for the Broncos, not for this.
Oh, well, so. at least you're trying.
Yeah.
I also this ruins the narrative. We're gonna have to lower the temperature number, because Tua up until this point had been 0-7 in the NFL, sub 46 degrees at kickoff, which this game was. I don't know how much lower we need to make that number now for it to still be Tua can't play in the cold.
Oh, it was 41. So we just dropped it to 40.
Well, I don't know what the other does that still work? Like, is this, how many of the other games were between 41 and 46?
No, if you just say 40 or lower, then he's still winless.
But what if the other games were 42-degree kickoff? The point was 46 had been the cutoff.
Because I just said make the cutoff 40. What? Because the game was 41 here.
Correct. But what I'm saying is, unless you know that every other game was below 40 as well, can't do that.
I don't know. I know at least one was like -10 in Kansas City in the playoffs.
Yeah, sure. But what I'm saying is, several of those games may have been between 41 and 46 degrees.
Make a new cutoff. Dolphins ran the ball really well. Devin Achane, again, toss plays. Just run toss plays to Achane.
Just give Achane the ball.
He has on this has just been really interesting, the story of 2025 for me, toss plays. Any sort of pitch, toss type of play. Devin Achane has like 70 more yards than any other back this year, and he's got 5 touchdowns. No one else has more than 2. And we're in a golden age of toss sweeps or just toss plays generally, but Achane has been awesome.
Toss or otherwise, just that dude with the ball in his hands has been incredible. He's so good, and has been. I mean, he's a Jahmyr Gibbs type of playmaker, and yet people aren't paying as much attention to it because he plays for the Dolphins, and they're pretty bad.
So Achane goes 7 carries for 92 yards, including 39-yarder, but leaves with injury.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. Jalen Wright comes in.
The injury not believed to be particularly serious.
Which is good.
McDaniel came out afterwards and said he could have gone back in if we needed him to, but we were already like 3 scores up, so what the hell.
Jalen Wright comes in, 107 yards on 24 carries. Also Ollie Gordon, 5 for 17. Both Wright and Gordon scored a touchdown. So the Dolphins finished with 239 on the ground, including the kneel down. So over 240 on the ground in 3 scores against this Jets defense.
Tyrod Taylor got hurt. Justin Fields had been ruled out already with an injury during the week, so undrafted rookie Brady Cook ends up at quarterback for the Jets. And that didn't grow great.
He had one good throw in there, red zone interception, or borderline red zone interception. I don't know where it was.
He also threw a bullet slant to A.D. Mitchell, which obviously went straight through his hands.
A.D. did not build on
and then the very next play, he threw a hopeful ball into zone coverage, just lofted it for an interception. It's like, these are the things. I mean, we said this with J.J. McCarthy the other week, right? It's like, you've got a guy who's very unlikely to be giving you high-end quarterback play. Yeah, your job is going to be harder as a receiver because this guy's not a great quarterback. So, but you've got to help him out. Like, the whole point is you being better players need to help the worst players. So if the guy puts the ball in your hands, even if you have to make an adjustment to make that happen, catch the damn football.
Just be better.
So, was that slant thrown like a laser in the direction of A.D. Mitchell that to a level that probably wasn't helpful, right? Yes. I think you can say that that was like 20 miles an hour faster than it needed to be. Did it, however, go right through his hands in a way that you can't have happen if you're going to be an NFL wide receiver? Also, yes. Like, just catch the damn ball so that maybe Brady Cook doesn't throw an interception on the next play.
Yes, this is Brady Cook from Missouri. The A.D. Mitchell did not build off his
momentum
career game. 1 catch on 6 targets for 24.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. Cook's not ready to be an NFL quarterback. Dolphins took advantage.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
Tough spot.
Impressive run game from the Dolphins. Jordan Brooks good again on defense for Miami. Rasul Douglas had that interception. They have had an easy schedule to get back to this point at 6-7.
Miami?
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're headed for a showdown, which looked awful a few weeks ago and is a little more intriguing. Monday Night Football next week. Dolphins at Steelers. 6-7 Dolphins, 7-6 Steelers. A little more intriguing. A lot of playoff implications for Pittsburgh, obviously. Dolphins, I mean, it's not great, but they still percentage points alive here. They're tied with. What?
No.
They are.
They are under 1%.
They're tied with the Steelers at 6-7.
Yes.
And the Ravens.
They're also tied with the Chiefs, who we just said their season ended last night.
It did not end. They have 11%.
Well, the Chiefs have a significantly better chance of making the playoffs than the Dolphins do, who have no chance to make the playoffs, but they are just about mathematically still alive.
The Colts, the Texans are still.
According to NFL.com,
the Bills, Chargers, or Texans would have to collapse.
Yes, according to NFL.com, the 4-9 Cincinnati Bengals have a greater chance to make the playoffs than the Miami Dolphins do.
Because of the
they
division.
are mathematically just still alive, but in the same way that you are mathematically still alive to win the Powerball. It's not going to happen, but you haven't yet been ruled out.
Intriguing Monday Night Football game next week against the Steelers. All right, anything else on this one?
Nope.
We'll get to the 4 o'clocks in a second. Quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. When Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors, and after a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or you lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opted into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. All right, let's go Denver Broncos getting the win to move to 11-2 over the Raiders, 24-17. A nice one-score win by the Broncos.
Nice one score. I cannot believe that the Raiders covered this at the end. This ruined I had such a great week of picks until this game.
The Raiders down 10 kicked a 46-yard field goal with 5 seconds left, just to end the game, to make it a 7-point
I
game.
thought there was 4 when that play ended, and then they, for some reason, had them kicking off with only 3 seconds left on the clock, and then they just decided, 3 seconds ran off when you kicked that, so the game's done. So, because the Raiders, they needed 2 scores, so it's well, let's kick the field goal, get it to 1 score, and then hope a miracle happens somewhere. And they were you don't even get the next play. Just the field goal took the 3 seconds off the clock. Unlucky. So all they achieved with that final point.
I think they knew, though. I mean, there was 5 seconds left. They kicked it. It's going to take 5 seconds for a 46-yard field goal. They knew this was the last play of the game.
Field goal doesn't take 5 seconds.
Sure does.
So all that they achieved with that kick is covering the spread and nothing else.
That's it.
Ruining my pick is all they achieved.
The big play in the game, 7-7 game in the second quarter, and Marvin Mims, 48-yard
punt return touchdown.
Punt return for a touchdown.
When it looked like the Raiders had him, they had him bottled up, and then you just get out of there. It's funny because the last time these two teams played, Pete Carroll responded by firing the special teams coordinator, and now they give up a special teams touchdown where it looked like 4 different guys had him pinned in, and then he just runs around them all for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Much like, he reacted previously to firing the offensive coordinator, and the offense is still bad. It's it's not working, whatever you're doing.
So this is where I did my special teams research.
Oh.
Marvin Mims, who averaged 15.7 yards per punt return last year, which was a top 30-ish mark in NFL history. He's now at 16.4 for this season, which would put him 19th all-time in punt return yards per attempt. Right around some fun names. Santana Moss.
Nice.
Of 2002. Roscoe Parrish from 2007. Dante Hall, 03, Kansas City Chiefs. Devin Hester, 16.2 in 2011. Darius Davis last year at 16, or 2 years ago with the Chargers. So anyway, Marvin Mims, huge punt return there in back-to-back years as a dominant punt returner here for the Broncos.
Nice. Geno Smith got hurt. Hurt his hand somewhere in the course of getting hit. So Kenny Pickett came in.
Yeah, Geno got hurt, stayed in, and then left.
Right. Came back. I think Kenny Pickett came in twice. So he came in, and then they patched him back together, and then he came back, and they was I'm
left again. Broncos pass rush has been interesting because I don't know if they were dominant down to down, but they still had those some play. There's some plays where it's hilarious how fast Nick Bonito
almost got a sack on a screen.
Yeah.
He forced Geno Smith into a panicked throw under pressure on a screen play where he basically threw the ball right at Zach Allen. Screen, you're supposed to basically turn the edge rusher loose, and he almost got a sack. It's amazing the speed he has.
It is unbelievable how fast he is in the backfield at times, and a couple of those in this game, including one of the sacks. He's just behind the left tackle at the top of the drop.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Broncos take care of business in this one. I thought R.J. Harvey ran well. He had a touchdown at 75 yards. And anything else on this one? Weird stat line for Bo Nix, 31 of 38 for just 212, 5.6 yards per attempt. A lot of short passes in this game for Denver.
Bo Jackson's great-nephew scored a touchdown in this game.
Yes.
Cedric Jackson is apparently a wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders, and Kenny Pickett threw an absolute dart to him for a touchdown.
Kenny Pickett with 8 of 11 for 97.
That's not something that was on anybody's bingo card.
No.
Nobody had that.
There was a guy named Bo Jackson playing running back for Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship.
Yes. Which, by the way, how can you do that to a kid? I'm going to call this kid Bo Jackson and have him play running back? What?
It's just setting the
Let's
standard
just call
high.
my kid Jerry Rice and have him play wide receiver and see how that goes.
Just call him Jerry Rice. If your last name's Rice, name him.
Yes.
Name him Jerry.
Right.
All right. What else we got on this one?
That's about it. I did think, though, during the game, the Bo Leavers, right? The flip side of that is, if you're I'm just putting this out there. I'm not going to charge royalties for it or anything. But I did think that a good flip side to the Bo lever would be faux nicks. FAUX.
Yeah, faux.
Yeah. So if you think he's a bit of a fraud, faux nicks.
Not you, but just saying it.
No. I don't think that. But if you are of that opinion,
if you're one of those,
that's something that you might want to use going forward.
No, I got nothing else on this one. Look, so Denver's 11-2. They're the number 1 seed as of right now.
Yep.
Tied at 11-2 with the New England Patriots. They would win the tiebreaker right now based off win percentage in conference games. And even that's close. Denver's 7-2 in conference games. Patriots are 6-2. So still a lot to unpack here when it comes to the very top. But they're both 2 games up on the Jags who are 9-4, and then the Bills are 9-4, but they're in the same division as New England, and see if they can even overtake them. So it does look like a battle for the number 1 seed. It's going to be Denver and New England.
2-horse race
down the stretch here. Yeah, and Denver does have a chance. Christmas night they play Kansas City. Could still be alive. They have a chance to officially knock the Chiefs out of the playoffs Christmas night.
Chris had a great line last night that was, I don't know if he'd been working on this or if this was just top of the head, but he said right at the start when they'd kind of done their little thing and then he summarized it and they're heading into the game. He said the Kansas City Chiefs are on the ropes and the Houston Texans get to take the first swing. So that's a good line.
That is good.
That is a good line.
You think he was workshopping that all week?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like I'm like, that can't have been top of the head, right? Like, that was
Fred.
If that's top of the head, that was
Fred.
That was elite.
Fed that to him.
That's what I'm saying. Somebody's been working on that.
Retired Fred Gaudelli is like, Chris, I got one for you.
Right. Like I got a line.
I was watching some old Ali, boxing matches this week. I got a line for you on the
Houston
on the Chiefs.
Gets to take the first big swing.
All right, let's go. Packers 28, Chicago Bears 21. Packers moving to 9-3-1, and the lead in the NFC North. Bears fall to 9-4. Not only do they fall to 9-4, they fall from the number 1 seed to the number 7 seed in just one game. This is a fun one, man. It was a fun game. Packers with the game-winning drive is Josh Jacobs running it in. I thought he had a couple awesome runs on that final drive. 2-yard touchdown, though, put them in the lead for good. But he had a 3rd and 1, ran through the defense, and then ran hard on that 2-yard touchdown. Bears still had an opportunity. 4th and 1, Caleb Williams throws an interception to Keyshawn Nixon in the end zone to seal this one for Green Bay.
Yeah, wild ending. I don't know where you start with this game. This was another one. This is one of the 3 worst officiated games of the week, in my opinion.
Go through the officiating if you want.
I don't want to go through much of it. There was some weird. They called a weird play where Colson Loveland catches the ball, goes to ground. The ball's taken away from him, and they somehow managed to call that an incomplete pass. I'm like, that's the one thing it can't be. There's no angle that shows the ball hitting the ground at any point in this thing. Like, it can be a lot of things here. We can call it a catch and down by contact, the K. Doughton thing. We can call it an interception. We can call it a catch and a fumble. The only thing it can't be is the thing you decided it was on replay.
Evan Williams rips it out.
Yeah.
And I think Green Bay wanted either an interception or a catch and fumble.
They were like, no, we fumbled. We stripped the ball away. It's a turnover.
Right.
And they were like, okay, let's take a look at this. And then they somehow ruled it as an incomplete pass. I'm like, I cannot see an angle where you can come to that conclusion. Like, that's the only thing it can't possibly be on this call is the thing that you've decided it was. There was an amazing diving Luke Musgrave catch that they took away from him on replay because the ball moves when he's on the ground. I don't know, just a bunch of weird calls in this.
From a Green Bay perspective, I saw the chat discussing Jordan Love, and he was our boss's MVP pick at the beginning of the season. And I'm just going to say, between Thanksgiving, this game, other points in the season, I think he's playing at a MVP caliber level. Another game where he makes some huge throws, average depth of targets over 12, and he's just chucking it down the field and throwing his fadeaways. I put a poll out there yesterday. Who's got a better fadeaway? Jordan Love or Michael Jordan? Jordan Love won. He won it. Maybe recency bias here, but I still think Jordan had a better fadeaway. But Michael Jordan, that is. Jordan Love is right there with his fadeaway throws, making some beautiful throws
Third
down
and
the
10. Yeah, 3rd and 10 fadeaway to Christian Watson over the middle, one-on-one against the safety. By the way, the Bears. So early in the game, the Bears defense was getting after Jordan Love. They got a sack. They forced an interception. Like, they were looking pretty good. And then they started playing a series of absolutely suicidal coverages against Christian Watson in particular, who, by the way, tore his ACL this calendar year. Like, this dude's out here torching defenses, having come back from this ACL, missing a chunk of the season, and now just is absolutely barbecuing everybody. But they're like, he's one-on-one against a free safety with no help anywhere, moving across the guy's face. He's one-on-one against C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the slot and just runs away from him on a slant. Like, these are not coverages that look good even on paper. Like, this is not one where on the chalkboard it's like, yeah, this is going to work. This is like if you were, you draw it up on the board, like, here's your X, here's your 0. But if you, like, that 0 there is Christian Watson. Like, oh, no, you can't call that. Like,
Watson.
Got to make a change.
He does look outstanding, though. The 41-yard, so the first one you mentioned was, more of a deep ball. But the second one, little 3rd and 3 slant, and he just runs away from the defense.
Right.
For 41. That put the Packers up 21-11. But this game was great, man. The Bears just kept chipping away, enough so that they put together a 17-play, 83-yard drive when they were down 7 to tie the game with 8 minutes left in the game. Incredible. The Bears' run game was, let's see, at one point, I had the numbers at one point. Their two backs went 27 carries for 120 yards, both over 4 yards per attempt, 4.8 for Swift, 4.1 for Monangai, no carry over 9 yards. It was just this methodical run game, couple throws here and there from Caleb Williams. Usually good stuff happens when you throw to Luther Burden. Reminder.
Yep.
Feel like you got to feed him a little bit more. But just a methodical Bears offense to the point where they had this opportunity at the end.
Well, it looked like in the second half, because the Bears have generally owned the fourth quarter this season, it looked like in the second half that run game was going. They were just wearing down the Green Bay defense. They were asserting their will. They executed this kind of comeback. Monangai was getting going. It was this sort of weird mix between the run game was dominating and then Caleb Williams just trying to be Superman all the way through the game. The touchdown that he threw to Zacchaeus, remember the way people used to make the argument that Brett Favre threw the ball so hard that it went through the hands of defenders? And it was probably ridiculous. This was a play where if you were trying to make that argument, you would use this play. Caleb Williams throws an absolute bullet, which goes straight through the hands of Keyshawn Nixon. And I'm like, I honestly think that might have been thrown so hard that Nixon just couldn't catch it. And the guy right behind him is a professional catcher of the football, not a professional defensive back. And so Zacchaeus is able to make the catch and Nixon isn't. I don't know that I believe that, but if I was trying to make that argument, that's the play I'd use. I'd be like, he threw that too hard for a defender to catch it, but just hard enough that the receiver can catch it. And then they go for a 2-point conversion, which gets stuffed at the line until Drew Dahlman decides, not on my watch, and just grabs hold of the running back and plows him in from 2 yards away, like saves the game effectively on that 2-point conversion play. And then that's when Green Bay answered with the slot to Watson where he just barbecues C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But Chicago's offense had kind of taken over in the second half, got it back, tied up the game, and then that's when Green Bay had this really impressive drive where they put a score on again.
It was a really fun back-and-forth game. And I made the comment, too. It was the number one Fox team, Kevin Burkhardt and Brady. I think Burkhardt's done a great job this year. I remember last year, I think it was all of Brady's first few games were all blowouts. And Burkhardt used to work with Olsen. I mean, he's been good for a few years. But I think he's just had a great year. When you're watching, I think Burkhardt just gets excited at the right times. Every game kind of feels big, and they usually are. But I just thought he did a great job on the call. Brady's much improved with his analysis as well. So I thought that added a little bit. I just had that in my notes as an added element. But a lot on the line for two teams that you haven't had the Bears in these situations often in the last decade plus. So that and like watching Caleb Williams in this really crucial game, it felt like so many of his plays, him rolling to the right. If you watched his passing, like the launch point of his throws, how many are just like right by the right sideline? You know how Josh Allen goes through those moments. Zach Wilson, for different reasons, he used to joke that like half of his passes are like 3 feet from the sideline. It felt like there was spurts in this game where that was happening with Caleb Williams, and sometimes he's throwing it away, sometimes he's saving plays, other times he's making great throws or throwing it right through the defense to his teammate. Mm-hmm. I mean, I still think the Bears are close, man. They've got this creativity on offense. They've got some toughness with the run game. They've got some special plays from Caleb Williams. Now they need more just gimmies in the pass game.
Which I think they had on that last drive.
But he is sailing some throws by a mile, very Favrean early in the game, especially when he's sailing throws. And then the final stretch, the 2 big plays. Like if you just summed up this game, the Packers go 8 of 12 on third down, including 2 touchdown passes. And then on 3rd and 1, as the Bears are driving, 35 seconds left, they let a lot of time off the clock, by the way. Another one where they let a lot of time off the clock. I know what they were trying to do, score and leave 0 time for a game-winning field goal. I get it. But they go 3rd and 1. Monangai gets stopped for no gain.
So that's 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1, they're in the red zone already. Like 3rd and 1, they're in the red zone.
From the 14,
yeah.
Green Bay 14.
They run Monangai expecting to pick up that first down and give them effectively, a whole new set of downs into the red zone, some time on the clock, like let's go to work here. They get stuffed on that 3rd and 1 play. So now you're like, okay, 4th and 1, you're in this weird, tricky situation where you can't really afford to screw around with the clock anymore.
But you have 2 timeouts still.
Yeah.
They had 2 timeouts. It's 4th and 1. You're at the 14. But this is what I'm saying. Like they let the clock go from 2 minutes on this series, from 2 minutes down to 27.
Right. But my point, I think they're fine with the clock where they are. The point is it's now 4th and 1. You just need to get a play. They end up running this like play action rollout left, and you assume because it's 4th and 1, you're just trying to get a yard. You've got DeAndre Swift out in the flat, who's pretty tightly covered by everybody. There's enough of a gap in front that you're thinking Caleb Williams and his speed, he's just going to run it. He's going to pick it up himself. But there's like a total coverage drop on Cole Kmet, who's running behind the defense with a safety trying to catch up. It's the right call. Like, this is the thing. The plays actually worked. It's a touchdown. And Caleb Williams, I think, read it correctly. Maybe he'd have made the first down. I think he probably would have. But he sees a touchdown, takes a shot at it, and he just doesn't execute. Caleb Williams, who's able to put this insane velocity on the football from stupid angles, running in ridiculous directions without his feet anywhere near him, decides this is the play. He's going to try and put a ton of air underneath it and loft it, and just doesn't get it where it needs to go. And the safety's able to, or Keyshawn Nixon's able to just pick it off.
And this was a similar throw, but much further from the Black Friday game. Rolling to his left, and Caleb Williams throws an absolute dime to go up 2 scores against the Eagles.
But like 9 times out of 10 in that dynamic, rolling to his left with a guy behind the defense and open, Caleb Williams is throwing some form of laser beam. For some reason, this is like the 1 out of 10 where he decides, you know what, I'm going to try and put a ton of loft and air under this and let it get in there gently. And it's like that's the one time where you doing that gives Nixon a chance to undercut it and make the play. If he'd actually just fired that the way he normally fires the football, I'm pretty sure they score a touchdown, and then you get that decision of, are we playing for a win or a tie here?
It's a great call because I saw people theorizing. It was 28-21, and they score a touchdown. It's going to be 28-27. Do you go for 2 for the win? And I was dying to find out what Ben Johnson's 2-point call was.
Right, because I assume he would have gone for it. Like, I'm betting 90% Ben Johnson is going for the win there.
We said this too. They were like 6-point underdogs, right? And we're like, hey, it's a close game, but it's what it comes down to.
So on the one hand, it's like kudos to Green Bay. I mean, they won the game. That's an important win for them. They put themselves back in position, the division, et cetera, et cetera. This was a game where, like, the Bears are sitting there with the number 1 seed, but everyone's like, but they might actually be fraudulent. It might not actually be that good. And in the next few weeks, we're going to see, like, they were underdogs in this game, right?
Yeah, by a touchdown.
Yeah. So it's like, they're going to go there. Green Bay is going to show them what a really good team actually looks like. And, we're going to forget that the Bears are the number 1 seed. Okay, they lost the game, but I think this was quite good for Chicago in terms of moral victory to show that, they were that play, that execution of a throw away from tying and maybe winning this game. I think that's good from Chicago's perspective that they weren't outclassed in the game. They lost, but they weren't outclassed.
They fought hard. Like, yeah, it was a 0-0 well into the game, right?
Yeah.
And then, look, they counterpunched every time the Packers made a big play. The Packers made a lot of big explosive plays.
They were tied for a while.
The Bears counterpunched.
Yeah, they were tied for a while. They let Green Bay go away from them for a while, and then they did execute the comeback and were literally the execution of one throw away from tying it up and potentially taking the win at the end. I know they lost, but this is about as good a loss as you can have from Chicago's perspective because they showed they belong in that kind of game.
I was saying yesterday, I think the easiest thing to do in sports analysis, Sam, though, is to just call every team a fraud.
Yeah.
It's great in college football because they're going to lose. Every team but one's going to lose. You're going to be right about 99% of the teams. They're all frauds. Everyone's a fraud. As soon as a team loses in the college football playoffs, see, Miami never should have been here. Told you. Bama never should have been here.
Never.
Told you. So we'll just do that. The Bears, frauds. Packers, they're frauds too.
Yeah,
Eagles, frauds. They're all frauds.
We talked about faux nicks. Another one that came to mind yesterday. Have people used this before? Love bomb. Love drops an absolute bomb deep down the field at Bo Melton. I feel like love bomb should be a thing.
You could do that.
Yeah.
During Toyota-thon.
By the way, Jaquan Brisker, we got so close to batting that pass away. He's absolutely barbecued on the play. Jordan Love gets it out there. And Brisker is sprinting, diving, trying to break it up. The no-hope single high safety against that deep shot that crosses his face. And he dives, and he gets so close to deflecting that ball away. Those are ones where it's I feel really bad for safety.
I'm not having this chat. Sam's anti-Bear bias is evident. Listen, I get fans are passionate. I get it. But don't come in here.
I've literally just spent 30 seconds talking about how that was an impressive moral victory for them.
Show that just like last week against the Eagles. They've proved a lot, I think, over the last couple of weeks that they're competing against the best teams in the NFC. Don't come in. There's zero reason for you to have bias against anybody.
Well, no, there's reasons.
I'm the Steelers, maybe.
I just don't. How do you get to anti-Bears bias based off literally just talking them up for a minute?
I don't know because you're just looking to be offended. I thought it was a great game. Credit the Packers. The Josh Jacobs runs. I just wanted to highlight that again, really quick. What was it? They had 3rd and 1.
That drive after Chicago tied it up was really impressive.
They got him on the edge on 3rd and 2, with 5:20 left, and the play looked dead, and he just runs through the defense for 21, and then comes back and just the 2-yard touchdown on 3rd and goal from the 2. They put the ball in Josh Jacobs' hands on 2 3rd and 2s. And he ran hard and made the Bears pay with two really nice runs.
One of them was another one of those plays where it's there's 3 Bears converging on him and they just take each other out, not him.
Just the physicality was impressive, though.
That's not anti-Bears. That's anti-bad tackling.
There you
go.
To
be clear.
You're pro-Bears.
Pro-Bears.
Pro-Bears. Tyson Bagent maybe would have hit that final throw per producer Will, not me. Not me. So I enjoyed this game. Packers are 9-3-1. This stupid tie is going to mess up everything. So they're now the number 2 seed, ahead of the Eagles, who just beat them a couple weeks ago. Eagles are 8-4, the 3 seed,
and who play,
and the Rams are sitting atop at 10-3. Got it?
Yep.
Speaking of the Rams,
45-17
over the Arizona Cardinals, dominant win to go to 10-3. Cardinals fall to 3-10 and may have hit rock bottom on this season. Rams respond. I remember last week they lost to the Panthers, had the 3 turnovers. I called it a 5-play game, right? Also, 5 plays that won the game for Carolina and or lost the game for the Rams. The Rams absolutely dominated in this game. We do need to start coining something here. Remember the Urban Meyer.
I'm on a roll of coining stuff today. Let's go. What do we got?
When Urban Meyer, we're the only ones who remember this, when he said, our goal
is to run for 250 rushing and passing yards.
The Rams
have 500 total yards.
The Rams had an Urban. If you take away Jimmy Garoppolo's kneel downs, they were over 250 rushing, 280 passing. They had an Urban.
That's low-key one of the craziest things any head coach has ever said. As long as we have 500 yards of offense and 250 of them are on the ground, we're in really good shape.
That's our goal every week.
You think?
Our goal every week.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you do that every week, you're going to be
I want to average
really
a
hard to
first
beat.
down per play. We'll be fine.
You do that every week, you're going to be a very hard team to beat.
Yeah, especially the Bengals. You could probably lose some games if you're Cincinnati.
Yeah,
but.
I think you're correct.
So,
that's an extremely good goal to set.
So I want to make that a thing here. We've coined a lot. We've got disrespectful runs.
I'm going to call it the Urban.
This is the Urban. They had an Urban.
They had an Urban.
They
Almost.
had Urban's favorite game.
They almost had an Urban.
Blake Corum, 12 for 128. Kyron Williams,
And if
13
one
for
of those
84.
one of those kneels from Jimmy G was a 2-yard loss, if he'd simply kneeled it correctly,
it would have been an
straight,
official Urban. I'm
Right.
giving him the credit because the kneels should not even count.
No, you can't. It's got to be by the book. You can't
Should
do that.
not count.
Urban Meyer, if nothing else, is a man by the book. He does things by the numbers. He's a stickler for the
This is
rules.
no Urban. Just missed an Urban then.
Correct.
By
this
a kneel.
This is an almost Urban, and only
Almost.
because Jimmy G kneeled for 2 yards one time instead of one.
Stafford goes 22 of 31 for 281 and 3 touchdowns. Puka Nacua was so good.
The point is, if you're giving up an almost Urban, you got your ass kicked on defense.
It's pretty bad. Puka Nacua was so good. 6 for 135 in the first and had another long catch in the second. 7 for 167 and 2 touchdowns. It felt like he had 3 dig routes in the first half. Boom, right on him. It felt like every big catch he had it was like contested. Had a cornerback right on him, but they had no chance.
Doesn't matter
against Puka Nacua because he was just incredible in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals couldn't stop anything. Like, the Rams dominated every aspect of this game on offense. Their offensive line was just crushing the Cardinals' defense. They were running the ball at will. Blake Corum was playing great. Everything was working. And the Panthers are the most confusing team in the NFL. The Rams might be the most obvious and easy to predict. Like, of course, they were going to not win last week because there was no reason for that to happen. Of course, they were going to bounce back this week and show that they are still a dominant force. And they just absolutely throttled the Cardinals defense. And then, look, I mean, Jacoby Brissett started the game well. Michael Wilson's still playing really well without much help around him. And they just didn't have any shot of keeping pace because the Rams were basically unstoppable on offense. I mean, they averaged 8 yards per play. That's like 2 better than a good number.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals have had all their running back injuries. They can't get anything going on the ground, and then every week the game flow just gets out of hand. So Jacoby Brissett throws 44 passes again.
Even though this started well for them. Like, they scored a touchdown their opening drive. The game was level up until like almost the end of the half. And then they just couldn't stomp them at any point in the second half.
Trying to see what Brissett's averaging per game.
I mean, this was a light day of 44 dropbacks.
He is averaging 43. So the league leaders in pass attempts per game. Jacoby Brissett, 43.
And does that count games where he came in?
I sorted it by starter.
Starts.
Thank you, True Media. Appreciate it. 43 for him. 41 from Flacco in his starts. And then Dak Prescott, 37. Mahomes, 36. Bo Nix, 36. So Brissett's averaging, 2 more pass attempts per start. He's also like 1 and 7 in those games.
It's like you get kind of old reclamation project quarterbacks, and they're just the most YOLO humans in the world. They're like, we're going to go out and pass every down because what the hell? We would have got.
And it's like when you're not on a good team and it's a game flow thing.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. It's just it's what Arizona. And he had that one game where he threw the ball like 70 times. Or whatever it was, 58.
56, I think.
But he completed 48.
Yeah.
It's just it gets out of hand
Yeah.
for them. Michael Wilson, though, continuing to prove he could be pretty good.
He's looking
11
really
for
good. I mean,
142.
honestly, when they get Marvin Harrison Jr. back, if that little brief resurgence we saw from Marvin Harrison Jr. is real, if he finally started to get it, I mean, if you start putting that together, Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, Greg Dortch, that is a really good receiving core.
It is. So, anyway, their defense looked bad. And credit the Rams, man. Blake Corum, I mean, they had 45 points with 11:13 to go in the game after, or even more than that, 13:56 after Blake Corum broke a 48-yard touchdown run. So I thought they looked good.
See him doing well.
What's that?
I'm glad to see him doing well now.
Yeah.
I really liked him coming out, and then it's like, oh, he's gone to the Rams where they already have Kyron Williams, and he gets all the carries. Well, they've actually, not equalized. They've spread that workload more now, where Blake Corum is actually a significant part of the offense, along with Kyron Williams when they're both healthy, and he's really good.
It's also one of those things where sometimes you have a backfield like David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs where you like to have different styles.
Yeah.
Other play callers might like to have.
You just have the same guy.
They like to have clones. Right? There's a comfort level with, hey, if I'm going to take Kyren Williams off the field, can I at least get?
Can I get the next Kyren Williams, please?
And they might have that. So Corum, just another weapon for the Rams. The other touchdown that Stafford threw, by the way, Colby Parkinson, an absolute seed right to him in the end zone. So you still have this, multiple tight end sets, and the Rams creating mismatches, and they actually left some points on the table. I thought early on they had a rough red zone drive where Stafford missed a couple, but I think he still ups his MVP case: 281 yards and 3 touchdowns, and 35-4 or whatever his touchdown interception ratio is at this point. So.
The Rams offensive line has been incredible all season long. Probably deserves more credit than it's getting. Nate Landman, the linebacker, apparently just loves picking off the Arizona Cardinals. He's got 2 career interceptions, and they're both against Arizona. He had another one in this game. So just a couple
plus
people
all the
to
landman punches.
Yes.
It's doing a great job forcing turnovers. We're 13 games in. Stafford has 9 more touchdown passes than the 2 guys at number 2, Jared Goff and Dak Prescott, who have 26. So, pretty good game for Stafford and the Rams.
Yep.
But Puka was awesome, man. They're looking good.
I just realized I'm dressed like the wall.
You are.
Add this to the rotation of things I'm not allowed wearing this show.
So Rams have the number 1 seed right now. They have an interesting run here. Lions come to town next week. Stafford, Goff, and for the first time in this rivalry, it's the Rams back on top as the better team. It had been the Rams as the underdogs against the Lions in recent years. Rams are at home, probably going to be favored. Haven't seen the line yet. And then they got the Seahawks on a short week after the Honolulu game.
Which doesn't do anything anymore, does it?
I don't know, but maybe it does.
Yeah.
It's just it's going to be quite the 4-day stretch for the Rams. Then they have the Falcons and the Cardinals once again. So if they're going to lock up the 1 seed, it happens over these next couple weeks.
Yep.
Against the Lions and the Seahawks. Is that it for that game? And that's it. We get to Sunday Night Football. Houston Texans 20.
So soon?
Kansas City Chiefs 10. Texans move to 8-5. The Chiefs are 6-7. 5th straight win for the Houston Texans. It was 10-10 in the second half. Andy Reid goes for it on 4th and 1. Pass incomplete, putting the Texans into field goal range. Not just field goal range, though. They took advantage with a touchdown. And they go 6 plays, 31 yards, put up the score to go up 17-10. And that was it, man.
What a game this was.
It was an incredible game. Let me just read some stats, and I'll let you break it all down. Patrick Mahomes, the production for Mahomes in the pass game were historic lows across the board for Kansas City.
He put up a Nathan Peterman stat line.
It looks like last year I made the joke when Josh Allen, remember he went 9 for 30 against the Texans. I said, This is 1992. This is like Dan McGuire, 1992.
And this must be like statistically the worst game Mahomes ever played, right?
By a mile.
Including like college, every level of football.
Yes. And look, there were a lot of drops and a lot of almost plays and balls that hit guys' hands, and then they got knocked out, or Ray Rice got knocked out, whatever it might be. But a couple garbage time completions made it look a little better. But 14 of 33 for 160. No touchdowns, 3 picks. Passer rating of 19.8, and then sacked twice for negative 12 yards. That's Mahomes' stat line from last night. Again, not saying it's all on him, but that's the stat line that Houston put up. The Chiefs had 4, 7, 10, 12 possessions. I do this possession thing a lot because it's a big factor in the game. We talked about the Panthers when they pulled the upset against the Packers. They held the Packers to like 7 or 8 possessions, right? You completely changed the game and you put the pressure on the offense. The Chiefs had 12 possessions and still only scored the 10 points.
Yeah.
So the Texans defense continued to make play after play, and yes, there were some bad drops and near misses for the Chiefs offense in this one.
I thought both defenses were incredible in this game. This was a game where it's like, this was old school elite defensive football from start to finish. Like sometimes you get these games, island games maybe, and they're low scoring, and it's like, this is ugly offense, it's bad football, it's just sloppy. This was two elite level defenses absolutely murdering the opposing offenses. And yeah, that had a knock-on effect, and I think Kansas City started to make mistakes because they were under so much pressure. And ironically, the championship team, they weren't making the championship plays, like the drops from Rashee Rice in particular, but like Travis Kelce, Hall of Famer, ends up not coming down with a pass that he would expect to come down with almost every single time. Now, it wasn't universal. I mean, Kareem Hunt was stopped at the goal line, powered his way in for a play. Like, they made some of those plays. Mahomes made some of those plays, only generally speaking, people didn't come up with it at the other end of it. But I thought this was like the work that the Chiefs defense did, given some of the crappy situations that they were put in by the offense in this game, was amazing. I mean, the real difference in the game, number one, the turnovers, the fact that Chiefs' mistakes were resulting in the ball going the other way. And then number two, the Texans were 8 of 18 on third down. They were, and C.J. Stroud in particular, made a bunch of really big third down plays to keep drives alive.
The game flow was fascinating, though, because Stroud made some awesome plays early. Scramble drill plays, outside of the pocket, the type of stuff when he's going up against Spags, and he's had some rough games. Remember, he got sacked 8 times against this Chiefs defense in the playoffs last year. And it was like, all right, he's going to have to make some of those plays. And he did it early on. Scramble drill to Nico Collins for 52. And then they handled Spags' blitz to cap a 90-yard drive, hit Woody Marks in the flat for a wide-open busted coverage touchdown to go up 10-0. And so they were handling it early on. But then they hit this lull. And this is where the game flow and the decision by Andy Reid is going to be under scrutiny. The second half, the Texans, as they get the ball to start the second half, they're already up 10-0. And they go 3 and out. And they go 3 and out for 4 straight possessions. And it reminded me a little bit of the Colts game, where the Chiefs forced 4 straight 3 and outs in the fourth quarter and overtime.
Yeah.
And they did that to the Texans. That was the Texans' third quarter. They had negative 2 yards on 12 plays. So, and then they go 6 plays for 19 after an interception. So the defense gets an interception. They go 6 plays, 19, 1 first down. So this is where the decision by Andy Reid, it's 4th and about 1.5 in their own territory, right around the 30. And they go for it. And I see, people are, you got Kareem Hunt. He's great on, 4th and 1 and 2 and 3rd and 1 and 2, whatever. It's a long one. That matters. It's different between 4th and inches and a long one or
right.
1.5. But they go for it in their own territory. The Texans had just punted 6 straight times.
Right.
If you take out the end of half drive to nowhere, right? Take that out. 6 straight punts Spags' defense had forced against the Texans. And C.J. Stroud made those nice plays early in the game. He looked lost, man. He looked absolutely lost. I had a friend text me. He goes, if this was baseball, you'd go to the bullpen, right? This doesn't happen in football. You just the guy needs a breather. Like, bring in Davis Mills for a couple series just to see if he could be better. Like, it was that bad for a while, where Stroud couldn't handle the blitz, couldn't see it. They couldn't pick up the blitz. He was overthrowing guys by a mile. Everything was off. And to his credit, he started to make some huge plays, including on this short drive. So the Chiefs go for it on 4th and 1.5, passes tipped away. And so the Texans' their defense is playing great already. They're in field goal range already to maybe go up 13-10. And then Stroud hits a scramble drill to Jaden Higgins to convert a first down, and that helps cap the 6-play, 31-yard drive that puts them up 17-10. But the decision by Reid to go in his own territory, which, of course, the analytics always says it's a go, right? But the criticism of that's going to be around the fact that they had just forced 6 straight punts. And you just handed field goal range to the Texans when they could not move the ball on the previous 6, really 7 drives.
Yeah, I think it's a real criticism. I mean, even the 4th down play, it's like it's instant pressure, and Stingley then is locked tight over the guy and makes a pass breakup over the middle. The defense was killing it on both ends. And look, you've got to at least mention the injuries that the Chiefs were dealing with in this game. Going into the game, we knew they were going to be worth it with a backup tackle on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Wanya Morris lasted 1 snap, got hurt in the first snap of the game. So now you're down to your 3rd string left tackle.
Esa Pole.
Yeah. Trent McDuffie lasted like 8 snaps before he got hurt, getting toasted by Nico Collins deep down the field. I mean, McDuffie's had a rough couple of weeks, but gets hurt, and now you're down your best corner as well. So the Chiefs are missing really important players. Mahomes is injured. Like, something is with his knee to the point where in between plays, it's 20-something degrees out there, and in between every series, they're bolting like a warming blanket to his knee. He's like making ridiculous scramble plays, then getting up and limping back to the huddle. Like, they were working behind the 8 ball in a lot of different ways. I mean, remember, we're a couple of weeks away from like Jason Garrett's mind being blown because the Steelers pass rush going up against a pair of backup offensive tackles was supposed to be immediate, like, game over. Like, what are we even talking about here? I mean, the Houston pass rush going up against a pair of backup tackles, and then now you're down to the 3rd string after one play. You're like, I don't need to see any more. Game over. No, that's it. But Kansas City was hanging in there because their defense was doing basically as good a job as that. And it started like right from the beginning. They crap out their first drive, and then like the first 3rd down, the Texans got a first down but hadn't gone to 3rd down. The first 3rd down they faced was like instant Chris Jones whoops up on Ed Ingram for the right guard.
I couldn't
immediate forced an inaccurate, panicky C.J. Stroud throw. You're like, that's what we're going to be dealing with here. Like, the Chiefs are in trouble because they're missing all of their offensive tackles, because Mahomes is limping, because everybody's hurt. But the defense, like Chris Jones had that one play where, like, the very first 3rd down, he was like, one-on-one, I'm going to make the play, forced a punt. There was another drive at one point where they were in a bad situation, and Spags came after him, just lit him up with 2 straight overload blitzes, forced him into a panic 2nd down throw, did it again on 3rd down, forced it. Like, they are doing incredible work.
Yeah, there was a point where I didn't think the Texans offense had a chance to take advantage of what their defense was doing. They were handed the 4th and 1. They were handed that field position, but they took advantage. A couple, like Stroud makes the big play, Woody Marks, really nice run for the touchdown. Or Ogumbalagwe. Oh, jeez. Ogumbalale. Jeez. He had to come because Woody Marks has a really nice zone run to pick up the first down. Yeah. Gets hurt on the play. Right. Ogumbalale comes in. 1 carry on the day. Chris is in the middle of saying he probably doesn't even run any of these goal line plays, and then he finishes it with a really nice 5-yard touchdown run.
The drive where Spags lit up C.J. Stroud, that was when the Texans were up 10-0, and they had that deflected interception. Jalen Petrie deflects it to himself, finds the ball in the air, picks it off, and you're like, oh, this is it. Like, this is life support right now for the Chiefs. Yeah. They are already 10 down. The Texans now have the ball with solid field position. If they give up points, the Chiefs might be done. And then Spags literally takes over the drive, lights him up on 2nd down with an overload blitz, lights him up on 3rd down again, forces punt. Just a huge defensive stand. And that was what was happening all the way through the game. The Chiefs' defense was just about clinging on to life, keeping them in the game. The offense hit a couple plays, got them back to being, in a decent spot, and then you get those 4th down decisions.
So here's the other one. So the Texans score the touchdown at 17-10. Chiefs go for it again in their own territory with about 5-something left, 340, whatever it was. And they have to. Like, at that point, Rashee Rice drops it, right? So they needed that, obviously. He drops the first down conversion. So now the Texans, on fringe field goal range, they're starting at the 41-yard line. Fringe field goal range. They just need 5 or 6 yards. And it was, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, the Texans offense almost blew this game from their perspective. They're in fringe field goal range to go up 10. All they need is a few yards to kick a long field goal to go up 10. They come out of a timeout break. They come out of a commercial break and use a timeout on 1st and 10 because they couldn't get the play in. Then they get to 3rd and 7. All you probably need here is like 3 or 4 yards to kick a long field goal. 3rd and 7, and they take a delay of game to make it 3rd and 12. And they're forced to punt. They go 3 plays, -2 yards on this drive here, and have to punt. And they give Mahomes and the Chiefs one last chance. And I don't care what your defense has already been doing. Do you really want to give them one last chance? Well, it didn't really matter because Mahomes throws it to Kelsey, a little behind him, off his hands, pops up. Mahomes throws his 3rd interception on the tip. So, man, the Texans defense answered the call over and over and over again.
The Texans defense.
But the offense made like just enough plays, but they almost blew this for the Texans in the way the defense was playing.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give all
and
the credit.
Or Spags gets credit.
Yeah, all the credit to both defenses. I think both defenses played absolutely spectacular. The difference was when the Texans were making just enough plays on offense to do something. Those third down plays in particular for C.J. Stroud throughout the course of the game, he made just enough of them to keep a couple of drives alive, to get them in position to put enough points on the board. Meanwhile, the mistakes that the Chiefs offense were making, independent of forced mistakes. Like there's this difficult world of like what's a forced error and what's an unforced error. There were absolutely some errors in this game that were forced by the defense. There were also some errors that were just unforced bad plays. And they made just enough of those that it ended up being the wrong end of it. I mean, you have a critical early short yardage play where Kareem Hunt drops the ball. Again, and it was a really good play as well. Like design-wise, they sort of fake the inside zone on short yardage and then leak it out to the guy who just faked the run. Hunt just don't have to drop. You have the Travis Kelce play. It's not the best. It's not an accurate pass in terms of ball location, but it's Travis Kelce. You're one of the best receiving tight ends to ever play the game. He expects to come down with that ball. Instead, he not only does not come down with it, but he like bobbles it upwards and it's picked off. The 4th and 4 play, though, that's the game to me.
Yes.
So there's how much time left on the clock? There's still a couple minutes left.
3:30 or something?
Yeah. So we've still got a little bit of time left, even longer than that, actually. It's 5 minutes and 31 seconds left on the clock. The Chiefs are down 7, but this is the first drive for a while where they have halfway decent field position. So it's 4th and 4 from your own 41. And again, the Texans, they just send a 4-man rush, but one of those 4 men is Will Anderson. He gets fairly immediate pressure. Mahomes steps up to that pressure, and then through a collapsing pocket that he's stepping up into, Rashee Rice has made the right adjustment. He's running like a crossing route over the middle, stops, comes back to Mahomes, gives him the place to go with the ball. Mahomes puts it on him. Stone-handed drop. Just awful. Now, I want to at least mention this because people do this all the time with quarterbacks. Rashee Rice had his absolute brains blown out by Jalen Petrie earlier in the game, going on a play where the ball's hitting him and Petrie just lights him up and absolutely
what a play that was.
Destroys him. One of the hardest hits you've seen in the NFL all year long. Completely legal. Nothing wrong with it, but he got blasted. And not only did he get hit, but he then hit, like his body then hit a 20-degree field hard. I don't know if that's the kind of thing that leaves a mark on you over the course of the game. And maybe on a 4th and 4 dump-off pass over the middle, when you would catch that, if you hadn't already had your lights knocked out, you don't this time around. Like people say that with quarterbacks all the time. Yeah, he threw 3 interceptions, but they all came after he got really hit hard by this defensive end earlier in the game. So maybe that was part of it for Rashee Rice. But he catches that ball. The Chiefs have the ball on the Houston side of the 50-yard line, driving, still only down 7. The way the game was going, Houston's defense probably holds anyway or whatever. But that to me was like the second that was dropped, it's like it's game over. They're not winning.
And Petrie had an incredible interception.
Yeah, the one he tipped it to himself.
Yeah, tipped it to himself. Has that? I mean, you will not find a better hit than the Rashee Rice one that he made. Like it would have been a 9-yard gain, and he just destroys him. You made this point I saw on social media yesterday too, because you'll see Mahomes had 10 drops. The Chiefs had 10 drops in this game, and it's like I know you and I, who both come from a world where you have to define an incompletion in like 20 different ways. Not every time the ball hits the receiver's hands, it's not a drop necessarily. There's Petrie, destroying a receiver, separating the ball. There's Kamari Lassiter. There was a deep ball that got to Tyquan Thornton's hands. Lassiter,
broke it up. Yeah,
but the
play.
ball was left back enough to give the cornerback a chance to make the pass breakup, which is what Lassiter did. So I think the Rice one, clear drop. The Travis Kelce one, he had room in front. He leaves it behind. Did it hit his hands? Absolutely.
Right.
Throw could have been better. Catch could have been made. Then you have Petrie breaking up a pass.
You have clear drop.
right?
Yeah, so there's at least 3 like really clear drops in there.
And we didn't mention it, but Arrowhead at night, Kansas City at night has
What is that?
higher drop. It's something with the lights. Michael Lopez from the NFL did the study. And remember, Tyreek Hill said this years ago. He's like, it is impossible. It's tough to see at night in Kansas City. It's either the tilt of the lights or whatever it is.
Texans didn't drop the ball.
But the study that Michael Lopez from the NFL did was that the drop rate in Kansas City in night games is significantly more.
Yeah.
So he tested early, late afternoon, and then night games in all stadiums. And it was like there's no outliers in this entire study except Kansas City at night is a crazy high drop rate. And it's like it all came to a head in this one. It was crazy.
And like the Chiefs were the ones dropping the ball. The Texans didn't. Nico Collins is amazing. Their receivers, Jaden Higgins made a couple of really big plays. They didn't drop the ball when they needed to. So that's the fine margins here that Mahomes was. His stat line looks like crap, but he was making some ridiculously good plays just to keep them alive in this game against an overwhelming defense. And his receiving core didn't help him out.
I thought he played better than the stat line, just like earlier in the year, he played far worse than the stat line. Like, that's kind of how it goes. But Texans defense deserves a ton of credit because even on plays when they didn't get immediate pressure, I thought there was a point where they needed to start blitzing more because Mahomes was finding escape routes, and he does that really well against a 4-man rush. I thought Houston, and they started to a little bit, send extra rushers, and they started to take away the running lanes. And it's kind of the truth about the Chiefs right now. You actually want to just make Mahomes win from the pocket, make them execute what are now lower percentage passes against, dropping 7 coverage defenders with receivers, making sure they're on the same page, with Petrie and other players making big hits, make them make these lower percentage completions. And that's what happened. What do you go, like 10 straight incompletions between
something crazy
drops and misses and pass breakups and the whole thing? Unbelievable effort by the Texans. So the drops are one thing, but when you have a defense that is hard-hitting in the secondary, has man coverage corners like Stingley and Lassiter, and just is good all the way around, even if there are some drops, like a lot of that is on Houston, right? Because everything's rushed. You're worried about the rush. You're worried about Will Anderson. You're worried about getting the ball to your receivers on time so they don't get popped. All those things add up, and that's an elite Texans defense. And as I've said about them and the Seahawks and the Broncos, they've got you rethinking everything offensively the next day. And here we are in Kansas City. Is it Andy Reid? Is it the scheme? Is Mahomes cooked? Do they need a whole new receiving core? Like, what do you do? You're rethinking your life offensively the day after you play the Texans. That's what you do.
Yeah. 2 more things I wanted to throw out there. Someone remind me of this when we start doling out awards and stuff, but was it Jalen Watson who I think is going to win the Form Tackle of the Year award based off that hit that he had on Jalen Noel? Chris was geeking out about this in the broadcast as well. Just like absolute form, textbook, wrap tackle. Put both arms, wrapped him around the legs, and drove him backwards like 3 yards on contact. Now, the stickler would point out that head was on the wrong side if you're talking about rugby, but I know that it's coached that way in football, so it's okay. I'll allow it. The point is, the man wrapped in the tackle, and when you wrap in the tackle, the guy can't go forward anymore. He goes backwards. So amazing form tackle to show that it is at least still possible. Meanwhile, who was it at the goal line who just I tried to catch a freeze frame of the ridiculous tackle attempts. I think it might have been, was it Zion McCollum, who was like horizontal, just having turned his shoulder into the guy, into Tyler Shuck that he was trying to hit. Like literally, like his arms were tucked. He just like launched himself into a shoulder missile and missed him, didn't get close to making a tackle. Like that versus here's a wrap tackle attempt. You actually do stop the guy on contact. So phenomenal play by him. And then where the hell was I going to go after that? Oh yeah. The Chiefs season is done now, effectively. Yeah, they can still technically make the playoffs, but probably not.
Their path is the Chargers.
Yeah, it's a bunch of things happening.
So, really quick. So they lost to the Chargers earlier this year, obviously. But the 2 other teams they're competing with for the wild card, they also lost to, the Bills and the Texans. But they play the Chargers this week at 1, and the Chargers have a tough schedule. So the Chargers play the Eagles tonight, the Chiefs on Sunday, and they've got a difficult – they play all playoff teams.
They need to –
that's their path, is Chiefs, to win out in the Chargers to lose a couple games.
The Chiefs need to win out against the Chargers, the Titans, the Broncos, and the Raiders, 3 of which you would imagine they would be favored against.
Denver at home, they're still potentially favored.
Maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it. Then they need to root against the Chargers and the Colts, who no longer have a quarterback. The Chargers schedule is Philadelphia, Dallas, Houston, Denver, and the Colts schedule is Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Houston. So those are 2 very difficult schedules for the 2 teams that they need to lose and they need to win out. It's possible, but the playoff odds machines are spitting that out as like between 10 and 20% chance of happening.
I think I've already written off the Colts.
Right.
So I'm looking at the current wild card team that they can catch between the Bills, Chargers, and Texans.
It's the Chargers.
I would say is the Chargers.
But they also but not only do they need to have the Chargers have that collapse, they also can't have the Colts win because they need to be ahead of the Colts when that happens. Like they need to be the wild card team. So they also need to stay ahead of the Ravens as well.
By the way, the Ravens and Dolphins are also both 6 and 7.
So anyway, they need a bunch of crap to happen, and that's why they have a playoff odds of 15% according to NFL.com, 17 according to some other people. So I think effectively there's no chance of it happening. Point being, even if you say their season is toast, I still think it's very early to be writing the eulogy on the dynasty. Like, if Kansas City bounced back next season, won a bunch of these one-score games, and won 12 games, bearing in mind, again, remember, they're down both their offensive tackles, their best cornerback left the game, like blah, blah, blah. I don't think the dynasty is necessarily over here.
Yeah, I mean, whether you want to call it a dynasty or not, like they're going to be very much in the mix in the coming years. You don't get any bonus points for being the first one to declare that they're dead. Still the middle of Mahomes' career. But it's interesting. I hear, Jeff Schwartz, covers the NFL in college, former Chiefs fan. He's already saying Andy Reid's got to make serious staff changes or he's going to retire within the next 2 years. And the Chiefs, when things go sour, even if it's just one game, we've seen them make massive overhauls. Go back to the Super Bowl. The first Super Bowl loss against the Bucs. They overhauled the offensive line in response. They make changes when things happen. This is a change-inducing season, I think, for Kansas City, whether they sneak into the playoffs or not. And I've seen the argument made, hey, they might be better off if they don't sneak into the playoffs. And I'm just curious to know what this overhaul looks like. Do you start to become a run-first team? Do you change the offensive system? What changes? Interested to see what this offseason entails for the Chiefs, who, by the way, have like the 13th pick as of right now, if they were drafting. But I want to make sure proper credit goes to Houston. And I want to reemphasize that they make every offense rethink their life the next day and what they're doing, right? We have people talking about Andy Reid retiring and changing the system because he played the Texans in that pass rush and that back seven that is fierce. And they gave up 15 on 4 drives with the game on the line. 4 drives with the game on the line in the fourth quarter. The Texans gave up 21 yards on those 4 drives.
I feel like
against Mahomes and the Chiefs with the game on the line in Q4.
I feel like Esa Pole, by the way, did a pretty solid job given he was up against Danielle Hunter for most of the game.
And the Chiefs did a pretty good job of moving the pocket, just a subtle pocket movement and changing launching. That's what they're good at. Like, they're good. I know we've got this in our head of the games where the offensive line gets crushed and Mahomes has no chance, but they are good at keeping edge rushers off balance as much as they possibly can. Like, just limiting the straight up one-on-ones. And you're right. I think Pole held up pretty well. I think he went to the Shrine game last year, and he's got NFL size and tools and held up for their third string left tackle.
Right.
And the other part, I just want to say, I thought I was ready to write off Stroud in the middle of this game, and he completed some of those 3rd and longs and scramble drill plays that saved the game. I was a little negative the way I worded it earlier, that the offense almost blew the game.
You wanted to bench him for
I'm saying I
Mills.
got a text. I got a text from a buddy who's like, he's so flustered right now. Would you bring Davis Mills in? I'm like, not really. But there was a point, 6 straight punts, might consider it. But Stroud made just enough of those really key 3rd down conversions. And it was impressive, man, because I thought Spags was completely in his head. I thought Spags had him. And Stroud made
I think he did for
plays.
a period. That's why the performance of the Chiefs defense was really impressive. And then CJ Stroud went out there and made a couple of really big plays. Higgins made a couple. Nico Collins made a couple. They had enough guys on offense make just enough plays to put them out ahead. And the Chiefs, when presented effectively with the same opportunities, shit the bed and drop the ball.
So the Texans are now, they're the 7 seed, 8-5, tied with the Colts, but they have the head-to-head tiebreaker right now. So they're the 7 seed at 8-5, and they're a game behind Jacksonville in the AFC South. And they're hot right now. No one wants to play the Texans, and rightfully so. Best defense in the league? Between them, Seattle, Denver.
I think there's a bunch of very good.
They're all
year
of defense, high-end defense. I want to get Seth Payne on the show to talk about it.
What did you make of the alternate broadcast of the reality people?
Oh gosh, what a terrible idea! I did not check it out. Did you dive into that?
You mentioned it was the first I'd ever heard of it. You mentioned it, and I was like,
Tirico mentioned it at the top of the show, so I figured I'd throw it your way to see if you wanted to.
Right. You mentioned it, and I was like, I don't even know what that is, so I'm going to go looking for it on the second screen. And I put it on the second screen, and immediately I looked at it. I'm like, I wouldn't watch this if you paid me to. Like, there's 4 people sitting on a couch. There's like 2 women that look like they've been drop kicked through a plastic surgeon's office. There's a guy sitting there in a Drake May jersey because like football. And then there's like a classic, E+ entertainment show presenter. I'm like, there's nothing you make me watch this. And then I'm like, but it's on now. And I'm watching the football over here. So I'll just leave it on for a minute and just see what the hell this is. And it's like, this show actually, it doesn't have any relationship to the game that's occurring at the same time that it's supposedly like, at least the Mannings are like talking while a game is happening and then like occasionally commenting, oh, it's a 3rd down, blah, blah. Like this is independent from the football game that's happening on the screen in the studio. It looked like, standard setup, like couch, there's a big TV behind the monitor, And it looked like someone had hacked the TV to just start streaming an NFL game instead of whatever graphic it was supposed to have on the screen at the time. I'm like, who is this for? Like, what are we doing?
What were they talking about?
It was just like a vaguely football-themed entertainment
TV
thing.
Stuff?
It's
for the Swifties.
At one point, they brought on some woman who was apparently, she'd won some fashion award for dressing like a Muppet. And then they had her.
Was Cam Newton on there?
He would have gotten good results, good reviews. Then they had this woman like reviewing, the pregame fits of all these people. Like, they walk in dressed however they're dressed. And she was like commentating on the outfit. I'm like, this is while like it's 3rd and 5 and Chris Jones is wrecking Ed Ingram for like a game-defining moment that's just happening in the background while they're commentating on the material that Travis Kelce is wearing as he walks into the building. I'm like, I don't understand who this is designed for. Like, who is watching this and thinks that this is a good way of consuming the product? It blew my mind. I would rather cut off multiple toes with rusty garden shears than have to watch games through that milieu.
No, you're a wordsmith, Sam. A wordsmith. By the way, for member David, but I was not suggesting Stroud get benched. I'm saying I had an old friend who brought up the idea of if a quarterback is struggling, because my buddy Adam texted me. We were both pitchers, high school, growing up, all the way through high school, and he was just using a baseball analogy. Like, would you go to the bullpen if a guy's struggling? Should that happen in football? Is the way he worded it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, that's crazy. And then I'm like, man, they're really getting to Stroud. Like, would you consider, if you had the right guy, like, would you just go? Would you bench a quarterback for like a series or two just to help them? And it's like, I said, no, it's not a football thing to do, but, it's interesting.
Not to pull receipts on this or anything, but if I would direct your attention to 10:42 p.m. of the previous night on Slack.
Bring in Mills.
Steve Palazzolo messages me, Stroud is cooked. Davis Mills should come in. It seemed like you were
being efficient while I was watching the game and researching my other games, and I was just conveying my friend's thoughts here.
Now we see it's not apparent from the message. The message is clear. It simply says Stroud is cooked, Davis Mills should come in. So it seems like you did suggest that.
I do my overreactions in one-on-one settings with you. That's not something I would put out there to the public because you're allowed to overreact amongst friends without It's like the group chat. You just like allowed the group chat to go.
Well, you can
in front of millions of people.
Look, it's a safe space, and if we want,
it's not safe. Apparently, I can't trust you anymore.
No, that's not true. It's entirely safe.
Suggestions.
It's entirely safe until you publicly claim that you did not say what you just said. That's the difference. It's perfectly safe if you just want to shit talk behind the scenes and put out whatever craziness you want, knowing that this is for private consumption, not public. That's reasonable. When you then come out and say, I would never say such a thing, that's when it crosses a line, and I feel like the receipts need to be brought to the table.
Full credit to C.J. Stroud for making some key plays when he needed to in this game.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? I can't trust you anymore then.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on Notre Dame being left out of the college football playoff?
I have no problem with that whatsoever, except unfortunate for old Tresh, obviously. I feel like them then refusing to play a bowl game is a bit like taking your ball and going home because you didn't get picked. It's like that's a little, bitchy.
Kind of like it. They're like, hey, we're gonna hit you in the pocketbook, as we like to say. We're gonna hit you where it counts. As they put out a statement, we're a big brand, we're big Notre Dame, and they're pulling themselves out of the bowl game.
Yeah.
Ad sponsor, they're not going to get the ratings for the bowl game.
Yeah, that's a little bit like,
The bowl schedule, by the way, is out of control.
Did they start those dominoes, or has everyone just collectively decided the same thing? Because like half a dozen, everyone else is backing out of bowl games.
It's like them, Iowa State and Kansas State. Now Iowa and Kansas State. I heard
there was like 6 different teams that already said no to bowl games.
Iowa State and Kansas State are at least in between coaches right now.
Right, but is this? They didn't start this domino rolling. This is like a thing that just coincidentally a bunch of teams have decided we're not playing bowls, or they're like, having seen Notre Dame.
No, other teams started it first.
Okay.
It's somewhat new though, but you're in this weird world, right? Because coaches used to. It's funny, right? Coaches used to love that they get 15 extra practices. It's like an extra spring practice. They're like, this is how we build our team. But now that we're in the, come on.
Huh. Well.
Get out of here with this screenshot.
Well.
I should have put quotes around. It's not my thought. This is someone else's.
I'm just saying it's only a problem when you start trying to claim publicly that things like that didn't happen.
Texans fans all over me now.
Yeah.
Good thing this part's been cut from the Texans video.
Mm-hmm.
That is not true. Anyway, you used to get the extra bowl practices. Now you just with the transfer portal, you're turning over all your roster. You don't want it as much. I don't know. You're out of here. But Notre Dame, it's just a weird dynamic. Because next year, if they're in like the top 12, they get this auto bid, but it doesn't apply until next year. So if the same situation happened a year in advance, they would be in and Miami would be out or something.
I tried to make this point on the watch along. Almost no aspect of college football whatsoever is not stupid. Everything about it is
it's awesome.
Mind-blowingly dumb.
It's awesome.
All of it.
The problem is they make the litigation the stars. They make the conferences, like nobody cares about the conference. Nobody really cares. They tell you that you care, that you're an SEC fan, but you're just an Auburn fan, or you're a Florida fan, or you're an Alabama fan. You're not an SEC fan. You're not an ACC fan. Duke fans weren't like, yay, Miami gets to represent us for the ACC. They're not excited about that, but they convince you that you're a conference fan. They convince you that the conference commissioner and that the school president is a character in this play, but they shouldn't be. It should be the players and the teams. So they put the stardom on all of the wrong people, and that's the part that is frustrating as a football guy like me that just likes the football.
It's all dumb. At the end of the show, we go to our, the end credits where all of our members, the insiders, have their name on the wall of the studio over there. This morning, though, I forgot to add them. So I'm going to give a shout-out of the moment to potential new insiders, which may or may not have already appeared on a video. I can't remember where exactly the line is, the ones that were written on the wall and where they're not. So shout-out to the new insiders, William Dozier, Jason CJ, Rabble Rouser 3000, Himi Jarbaugh, see what he's done there, Alex Della Pena, and SPG 3301. By Wednesday, they will be up on the wall if they're not already.
Love it. Welcome. Appreciate everybody. Is that it for us today?
Hopefully.
All right. Enjoy Monday Night Football with Jim Harbaugh. Chargers, Eagles tonight, and Monsters, Inc. Kids are excited about the Monsters, Inc.
That's this
That's
game?
tonight.
Oh,
Monsters
I thought
Inc.
that
game
was
tonight on ESPN2. No
least-
Manning cast, I don't think. It's Monsters Inc. instead. If that's
as long
what
as it's not another Real Housewives.
No. Kids are excited about this one. All right, that's it for us today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you Wednesday. More Check the Mic.